The Mega Knight. To most players, he's nothing more than frustration made of metal. But before the armor, before the weight, before the arena crowds chanted his name, he was just a boy. A boy who wanted to be a hero. A boy who believed that if he tried hard enough, trained hard enough, wished fiercely enough, he could become one. But the world has a way of deciding who we are before we get the chance to choose. And for him, it all began with a pair of hands. Small, soft, ridiculed. Hands no one believed would ever shape a sword, let alone shape history. This is not the story of a champion who rose because he was strong. This is the story of a child who was told he would never be. And how that child learned to carry a weight the world could not imagine. The morning mist clung to the towers of the Knight Academy like a promise of greatness. 8-year-old Marcus stood at the iron gates, his mother's warm hands wrapped around his shoulders. He could feel her trembling, not from the cold, but from that special kind of fear only mothers know when they're about to let their children face the world alone. "Remember what I told you," she whispered, kneeling down to his height. Her fingers found his hands, those small, delicate things that seemed to belong more to a scholar than to a warrior. She squeezed them gently, memorizing their softness. "These hands are going to do great things, Marcus. Different things. Special things." Though his stomach churned like a storm at sea. Behind those gates, hundreds of other children were arriving. Future knights, future heroes. Their fathers stood tall beside them, many in armor that caught the morning sun. Their hands were already rough from practice swords, already marked by the promise of strength. His mother kissed his forehead. "I'll write every week, and you'll write back, won't you? Tell me everything?" "Everything," Marcus promised, though he didn't know yet how many letters would end up crumpled under his pillow, too shameful to send. She stood, smoothing her simple dress. They couldn't afford armor for him yet. They could barely afford the academy tuition. But his mother had sold everything, her wedding ring, her grandmother's necklace, even their good furniture, to give him his chance. "Go on then, my brave knight." Marcus walked through those gates alone, his small hands clenched into the tightest fists they could make. The entrance hall echoed with voices and clanging metal. Boys and girls, all 8 to 10 years old, lined up for their initial assessments. Marcus found his place among them, trying to stand tall despite being one of the smallest. A boy beside him, already thick with muscle, glanced down and snorted. "They're letting anyone in these days," the boy muttered to his friend. The assessment began with basic measurements: height, weight, reach, and then came the moment that would define everything: the hand inspection. "Hands out, palms up," barked Master Aldrich, the senior instructor. His face looked carved from stone, all angles and scars. "A knight's hands are his life. Show me what you're working with." One by one, children extended their hands. Most were unremarkable, normal-sized, some already calloused. The muscular boy beside Marcus had hands like shovels, and Master Aldrich nodded approvingly. Then came Marcus's turn. He hesitated for just a heartbeat before extending his hands, palm up, into the harsh light of the hall. The silence that followed felt infinite. Master Aldrich's eyebrows climbed toward his helmet. Someone in line gasped. Then, like a dam breaking, the whispers started. "Are those even real? They look like my sister's hands. No, prettier than that, like a princess." The muscular boy laughed loudest. "Princess hands. Everyone, we got princess hands over here." Marcus's face burned harder than forge fire. He wanted to pull his hands back, to hide them, to run. But Master Aldrich was still examining them with an expression Marcus couldn't read. "Quiet," the instructor's voice cut through the mockery. He looked at Marcus with something that might have been pity. "Small hands can still hold a sword. You'll have to work twice as hard as everyone else, boy. Think you can manage that?"
"Yes, sir," Marcus said, his voice steadier than he felt.
"We'll see." The first week of training proved Master Aldrich right and wrong. Marcus could hold a sword, but barely. While other children swung their practice blades with growing confidence, Marcus's grip faltered. His hands cramped. Blisters formed and burst and formed again, but they never seemed to toughen like the others did. "Princess Hands can't even lift his sword." Thomas, the muscular boy who'd started it all, had made it his personal mission to ensure the nickname stuck. "Maybe they should give you a needle instead, and you could knit us some nice scarves for winter." The laughter followed Marcus everywhere. In the dining hall, other students would mockingly offer to cut his meat for him. In the dormitories, someone left a pair of silk gloves on his pillow with a note, "To protect your delicate skin, princess." Marcus tried everything. He stayed up after lights out, practicing sword forms until his arms shook. He wrapped his hands in leather strips, hoping to make them look bigger, tougher. He even tried sleeping with rocks in his palms, thinking pressure might somehow change them. Nothing worked. 3 weeks into the term came the first exhibition, a chance for new students to demonstrate their progress before the entire academy. Parents were invited. Marcus had written to his mother about it, a carefully worded letter that mentioned the date, but nothing else. He couldn't bear to tell her the truth. She came, of course, sat in the front row wearing her best dress, the one she'd hidden from the merchants when selling everything else. Her face glowed with pride before anything even began. The exhibition started with older students demonstrating advanced techniques. The crowd cheered as third years shattered training dummies and fourth years dueled with real steel. Then came the first year's turn. One by one, Marcus's classmates showed their basic forms. Nothing spectacular, but solid foundations. Thomas went right before Marcus, swinging his sword in wide, powerful arcs that drew appreciative nods from the crowd. "Next up, Marcus," Master Aldrich called. Marcus walked to the center of the courtyard, practice sword in hand. The weapon felt heavier than usual. His hands were already sweating. He began the basic form, overhead strike, parry, thrust, repeat. Simple moves every knight should master. But halfway through the overhead, his grip slipped. The sword flew from his hands, clattering across the stones. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Thomas's voice rang out. "Someone get Princess Hands a smaller sword, maybe a butter knife." The laughter erupted like thunder, not from just students. Some parents chuckled too. Marcus stood frozen in the center of the courtyard, his small hands empty and exposed, trembling at his sides. But through the wall of laughter, one face remained still. His mother. She wasn't laughing, she wasn't even crying. She was just looking at him with an expression that said, "I see you, the real you, and you're enough." Marcus retrieved his sword and finished the form. Badly, but he finished. That night, after his mother had gone home with whispered encouragements and tight hugs, Marcus sat on his bed and wrote a letter. "Dear Mother, the exhibition went well. I'm learning so much. The food is good and I've made friends. Thomas is really funny and gives everyone nicknames. Mine is a joke about my hands, but it's all in good fun. Please don't worry about me. I'm going to be the knight you believe I can be. Love, Marcus." He folded it carefully, addressed it, then walked to the window. The autumn wind was picking up, scattering leaves across the courtyard like fallen dreams. Marcus held the letter for a moment, then let it go. The wind took it, tore it apart, scattered the lies to the darkness. He wrote another letter. "Dear Mother, they hate me here. They hate my hands. They hate that I'm different. I can barely hold a sword. Everyone laughs. Even some teachers think I shouldn't be here. I'm so tired, so angry. Sometimes I dream about having different hands, huge ones, metal ones that could make them all stop laughing. But I remember what you said. These hands will do special things, different things. I don't know yet, but I won't give up. Not because I'm brave, but because I can't bear the thought of you selling everything for nothing. I love you. I'm sorry I'm not the knight you wanted. Marcus. This letter he folded even more carefully, where it would join a growing pile of unsent truths. The weeks turned into months. The mockery became routine, background noise to Marcus's daily failures. But something else was growing too, deep in his chest. Not hope. Hope was too gentle a word for it. This was harder, sharper. It was determination crystallized into something almost like hatred. Not for his classmates, not even for Thomas, but for his own hands, these small, delicate, traitorous things that marked him as different, as less than, as wrong. Winter came early that year. The last day before holiday break, Master Aldrich announced a special exercise, unarmed combat. No swords to fumble, no shields to drop, just strength and skill. Marcus was paired with Thomas, of course. "Don't worry, Princess," Thomas whispered as they faced each other. "I'll be gentle. Wouldn't want to break those precious little fingers." Marcus said nothing. He was tired of words. Tired of trying to explain or defend or pretend it didn't hurt. When Master Aldrich gave the signal, Thomas came forward with lazy confidence. He reached for Marcus's shoulder, planning some simple throw to end it quickly and entertainingly. But Marcus had been watching. All those nights he couldn't sleep, all those meals he spent alone, he had been watching how the others moved, how they telegraphed their intentions. And while his hands might be small, his mind was sharp. He ducked under Thomas's grab, pivoted, and drove his small fist into the larger boy's solar plexus. Thomas doubled over, gasping. The courtyard went silent. Marcus could have stopped there, claimed his small victory, and walked away, but months of humiliation had pooled into something dark and desperate. He grabbed Thomas's hair. His small hands were perfect for gripping, actually, and brought his knee up to the boy's face. Blood exploded from Thomas's nose. He fell backward, screaming. Marcus stood over him, fist clenched, blood on his small knuckles, chest heaving. "Enough," Master Aldrich's voice boomed across the courtyard. He pulled Marcus back, his huge hand easily encircling both of the boy's wrists. "My office, now." As Marcus was led away, he caught a glimpse of his classmates' faces. The mockery was gone, replaced by something else. Not respect, never that. But fear, maybe, or at least uncertainty. In Master Aldrich's office, Marcus expected expulsion. Instead, the instructor studied him for a long moment before speaking. "Anger is a tool, boy, like a sword. But if you let it control you instead of the other way around, it'll destroy everything you touch." He paused. "Your hands may be small, but your rage is enormous. That's dangerous for you and everyone around you." "They laugh at me," Marcus said quietly. "They'll always find something to laugh about. If not your hands, then your height, your voice, your family's poverty. The question is, will you let their laughter define you, or will you define yourself?" Marcus looked at his hands. Blood was drying under his fingernails. They looked different somehow. Still small, still delicate, but capable of damage. "I want to be strong," Marcus whispered. "Strength comes in many forms. The strongest knights aren't always the biggest." Master Aldrich leaned back. "You're not expelled, but when you return from break, you'll have extra training. Dawn sessions with me, personally. I'll teach you to use what you have instead of mourning what you don't. But Marcus." "Yes, sir." "Be careful what you wish for. I've seen boys like you before, the ones who hurt so much they'll do anything to stop the pain. Sometimes what they become is worse than what they're running from." That night, Marcus packed his belongings for the journey home. His hands were still swollen from the fight, wrapped in bandages that make them look almost normal-sized. Thomas hadn't returned to the dormitory. Word was, his nose was broken in 3 places. The other boys gave Marcus a wide berth, unsure of how to treat someone who was both Princess Hands and the person who'd destroyed Thomas's face. Marcus pulled out a fresh piece of paper and wrote one more letter. Dear Mother, I'm coming home for break. I've learned so much. I'm changing. I think you were right. These hands are going to do different things. I just don't think they're the things either of us expected. I love you. I'm sorry for what I'm becoming. Marcus. This letter he actually sent. As the carriage pulled away from the night academy the next morning, Marcus pressed his small hands against the cold window and watched the towers disappear into winter mist. In his trunk was a book Master Aldrich had given him, The Art of Armor, A History of Protection. Marcus didn't know why the instructor had chosen that particular book. Not yet. But that night, Marcus made a promise to himself that would change everything. The forge was supposed to be locked at night. 10-year-old Marcus pressed his small hands against the cold metal door, feeling for the loose bolt he discovered weeks ago. There, a little wiggle, a careful twist, and the door creaked open. The smell hit him immediately, coal dust, melted iron, and something else, opportunity. He slipped inside, his heart hammering so loud he was sure it would wake the entire night academy. Moonlight filtered through the high windows, casting long shadows across the workbenches. Mountains of scrap metal gleamed in corners, pieces deemed too small or bent to be worth the mastersmith's time. But to Marcus, they were treasures. His hands, those cursed, delicate hands, trembled as he gathered the pieces. 2 years had passed since he'd arrived at the academy. 2 years of princess hands. 2 years of being picked last for every training exercise. 2 years of pretending he didn't hear the whispers, didn't see the pointing, didn't feel the burning shame that crawled up his neck every time someone new noticed them. The worst part, they were his mother's hands. He remembered her last words at the academy gates. These hands will do great things, my brave knight. She'd kissed each palm before letting him go. She'd been dead 6 months now. Plague took her while he was stuck here, and he never got to tell her how wrong she'd been. Marcus spread the metal pieces on the ground, trying to remember what he'd seen the smiths do. He needed something to cover his hands, to make them look bigger, stronger, normal. The other boys wore their training gauntlets with pride, but Marcus's were special made, the smallest size they had, and they still slipped off during combat practice. He worked through the night, cutting his fingers on sharp edges, burning them on pieces still warm from the day's forge. Blood mixed with soot as he bent and hammered as quietly as he could. The design was simple, or so he thought. Metal plates to extend past his actual fingers, leather straps to hold them in place, some cotton stuffed inside for bulk. By dawn, he had 2 crude contraptions that looked more like metal claws than gauntlets. But when he slipped them on, his hands looked bigger, different, and maybe even dangerous. Marcus snuck back to his dormitory just as the morning bell rang. His roommate, Thomas, was already awake, pulling on his training gear. "Where were you?" Thomas asked. Then his eyes went wide. "What are those?" "My new gauntlets," Marcus said, trying to sound confident. "Custom made." Thomas snorted. "They look like you strapped spoons to your hands." But Marcus didn't care. Today was the Squire's exhibition, where second-year students demonstrated their combat skills for visiting knights who might choose them as apprentices. It was his chance to prove himself, to show everyone that he was more than just his hands. The exhibition arena was packed. Parents who could afford the journey sat in the upper stands. The academy's instructors lined the main platform, and there Marcus's stomach dropped. Stood Sir Garrett, the bold, hero of the Skeleton Army siege, the knight every boy dreamed of serving. Marcus was scheduled for the 3rd bout. He watched the first 2 pairs of students clash with practice swords, their movements fluid, confident. When his name was called, the familiar snickers started. Princess Hands got himself some fancy gloves. Bet they fall off first swing. Marcus stepped into the ring, facing Harold, the blacksmith's son, biggest boy in their year. Harold grinned, spinning his practice sword with ease. Nice mittens, princess. You knit them yourself? The instructor signaled to start. Harold charged immediately, bringing his sword down in a crushing overhead strike. Marcus raised his arms to block, and that's when everything went wrong. The impact jarred through the metal plates, but the leather straps, hastily tied and already weakened from his bloody fingers working them, snapped. The left gauntlet flew off, spinning through the air. The right one twisted sideways, trapping his hand at an impossible angle. Marcus screamed, not from pain, but from panic. He tried to shake the twisted metal off, spinning wildly. The crowd's laughter rose like thunder. Harold stopped attacking, stepping back with a mixture of pity and disgust on his face. Just take them off, Marcus, Harold said. And somehow his kindness was worse than mockery. But Marcus couldn't. The twisted metal had locked around his wrist. He pulled desperately, tears streaming down his face now, no longer caring who saw. The metal cut into his skin, blood dripping onto the sand. The laughter had stopped, replaced by uncomfortable silence. Then a voice cut through the arena, graveling and commanding. Boy, stop moving. An old man descended from the stands. Marcus recognized him vaguely. Aldrich, the academy's janitor. Ancient, back-bended, always pushing his cart through the halls. But the way he walked now was different, purposeful. He knelt beside Marcus with surprising grace. Breathe, boy, Aldrich said quietly, his gnarled fingers working at the twisted metal with practiced ease. Breathe and be still. The gauntlet came free. Marcus's hand was bleeding but intact. The crowd began to disperse, the show over. Sir Garrett had already turned away, interest lost. Another year without an apprenticeship. Another year as princess hands. That night, Marcus sat alone in the infirmary, his hands wrapped in bandages. The nurse had given him milk of the poppy for the pain, but he'd poured it out. He wanted to feel this, needed to remember this failure. The door creaked open. Aldrich entered, carrying his mop bucket, but also something else, a leather bundle. You work in the forge at night, Aldrich said. It wasn't a question. Marcus's stomach clenched. Stealing academy resources was grounds for expulsion, but Aldrich didn't seem angry. He set down his bucket and unwrapped the leather bundle. Inside lay 2 gauntlets. Real one. The metal was dark, almost black, with intricate engravings that seemed to shift in the candlelight. These were mine, Aldrich said. From before. Before? Aldrich pulled up a stool, groaning as his old bones settled. Before my hands got crushed in the Battle of Iron Valley. Before I became too broken to hold a sword. Before I became invisible. He held up his own hands. They were twisted, scarred things. 2 fingers missing on the left, the rest bent at unnatural angles. I was Sir Aldrich the Mighty once. Can you imagine? These ruined claws held the kingdom's banner high. Now I push 'em up, and everyone forgets. But I see you, boy. I see you working, training, refusing to break, even when they try to break you. But I did break, Marcus whispered. Everyone saw. No, Aldrich said firmly. You fell. There's a difference. Broken things stay broken. You'll get up tomorrow. You'll try again. That's what we do. That's what knights do. Real knights. Not those peacocks preening for glory. He pushed the gauntlets toward Marcus. These won't make your hands bigger, won't make you stronger, but they're yours if you want them. One condition. Anything. Aldrich's eyes glinted. You wear them with pride. No more hiding. No more shame. Your hands are your hands. These gauntlets are tools, not masks. Understood? Marcus nodded, reaching for the gauntlets with his bandaged hand. They were heavier than they looked. The metal warmed despite the cool night. When he slipped the first on, it fit perfectly. Not too big, not too small. Just right. How? Marcus asked. Had them adjusted, Aldrich said. Called in an old favor from a smith who remembers when I saved his son.
Took your measurements while you slept in the infirmary. Creepy, I know, but you needed them ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
The exhibition has a second day. Redemption rounds, they call it, for those who encountered difficulties. You're signed up for the first bout.
Marcus's throat tightened. But everyone will
see a knight getting back up,
Aldrich interrupted.
That's all that matters. The rest is noise.
He stood to leave, then paused at the door.
Oh, and boy, these gauntlets have a peculiarity. The more force they receive, the more they absorb and redirect. Don't ask me how. Enchantment from the old wars. Point is, when that blacksmith boy tries his overhead strike again, he'll be ready.
How do you know he'll?
Because bullies are predictable. And because I may have suggested to the instructors that a rematch would be educational.
The old janitor left, and Marcus sat alone with the gauntlets. He ran his fingers, his small, delicate fingers, along the engravings. They showed scenes of battle, but also other things. Hands planting seeds, building walls, holding other hands. All kinds of hands doing all kinds of work. That night, Marcus didn't sneak to the forge. Instead, he stood in front of the mirror in the empty washroom, wearing the gauntlets. He practiced stances, strikes, blocks, not to hide his hands, but to make them stronger. The gauntlets didn't make him someone else. They made him more himself. The second day of exhibitions came gray and drizzling. Crowd was smaller, less enthusiastic. Redemption rounds weren't the main attraction, but Sir Garrett was there again, Marcus noticed. Perhaps he always stayed for both days. Perhaps real knights understood second chances. Marcus entered the ring. Harold was there, looking annoyed at being called back.
Let's make this quick, Princess. I've got real training to do.
The instructor signaled. Harold charged, exactly as Aldrich predicted, sword high for the same crushing blow that had worked so well yesterday. Marcus didn't dodge, didn't panic. He raised his gauntlets and caught the blade between them. The impact sang through the metal, but instead of jarring his arms, the force seemed to flow through the gauntlets and dissipate. Harold's eyes widened. Marcus twisted, using Harold's own momentum. The bigger boy stumbled past. Marcus could have struck him then, a clean hit to score the point, but instead he stepped back, setting his stance. Again, Marcus said quietly. Harold snarled and attacked, faster now, taking it seriously. Marcus blocked, parried, each movement smoother than the last. The gauntlets sang with each impact, and Marcus began to understand their rhythm. He wasn't fighting against Harold's strength. He was redirecting it, using it. The bout went on longer than any student match should. The crowd grew, word spreading that something unusual was happening in the redemption rounds. Marcus never attacked, only defended, but his defense was becoming art. Harold grew frustrated, then tired, then desperate. Finally, breathing hard, Harold lowered his sword. "How?" he gasped. Marcus pulled off one gauntlet, showing his unbandaged hand. Small, delicate. His mother's hand. The crowd murmured. He put the gauntlet back on. "They're just my hands," Marcus said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "They've always been my hands." The instructor called the match a draw, but Marcus saw Sir Garrett nod slightly before turning away, not choosing him as an apprentice, but acknowledging something. Maybe that was enough for now. After the exhibition, Marcus found Aldrich in his usual spot, mopping the Great Hall. "Thank you," Marcus said simply. Aldrich didn't look up from his mop. "The gauntlets are yours now. Use them well. But remember, they're just metal. The strength, that comes from you." "Will you teach me? The real techniques? Not what they show in class?" Aldrich paused his mopping. "I'm just a janitor boy." "No," Marcus said firmly. "You're a knight who knows how to get back up." Something shifted in Aldrich's withered face. "Every night after final bell, in the old chapel nobody uses. We'll see if you're serious." Marcus walked away, the gauntlets heavy on his hands, but his heart felt lighter than it had in 2 years. He thought of his mother, of her last kiss on his palms. Maybe she'd been right after all. These hands would do great things, not in spite of what they were, but because of it. That night, lying in his bunk, Marcus flexed his fingers inside the gauntlets. Tomorrow, training would continue. The mockery might continue too. But something had changed. He'd found his armor, not the metal kind, but something deeper. The knowledge that failing wasn't the same as breaking. That getting back up was the only thing that really mattered. Thomas whispered from the next bunk. "Those new gauntlets are actually pretty cool." "Thanks," Marcus whispered back. "But you know Harold's gonna want revenge, right? He's already telling everyone you cheated." Marcus smiled in the darkness. Let him come. He didn't know that in 2 years he would accidentally kill someone with these same gauntlets. Didn't know the strength Aldrich taught him would become too much strength. Didn't know that these gauntlets that now felt like freedom would eventually feel like chains. But for tonight, he was just a boy with small hands and good armor, dreaming of becoming a knight. The gauntlets sat beside his bed, catching moonlight through the window. On them, the engravings seemed to move, showing new scenes. A young knight training in a forgotten chapel, an old janitor revealing ancient techniques, and 2 pairs of broken hands, one old, one young, finally finding their strength. In the morning, he would rise, he would train, he would endure whatever came next, because now he had armor, real armor, and a teacher who understood that the strongest knights weren't those who never fell. They were the ones who knew how to stand back up. The rain outside had stopped. Tomorrow would be clear. But even the strongest gauntlets couldn't protect him from what came next. Timothy had soft eyes. That was the first thing Marcus noticed about him, not the usual, sharp, predatory gaze of the other academy boys, but something gentle, kind even. It was 3 months after Aldrich had given him the gauntlets, and Marcus had grown used to eating alone in the dining hall, the space around him empty, like he carried plague. "Is this seat taken?" Marcus looked up from his gruel. Timothy stood there with his own tray, sandy hair falling into those impossibly soft brown eyes. "They're all taken," Marcus said quietly, "just not with people." Timothy sat down anyway. "I'm Timothy, transferred from the Eastern Academy. I heard you're the one who fought Harold to a standstill." "I heard you're the one who's either brave or stupid enough to sit with princess hands." Timothy grinned. "Definitely stupid. Besides, my grandmother always said you can judge a person by their enemies. Harold's been talking about you nonstop for 3 months. Anyone who gets under his skin that much must be worth knowing." And just like that, Marcus had a friend. It shouldn't have been that simple. 2 years of isolation didn't just end because one boy decided to sit down, but Timothy had a gift. He made everything seem normal. He didn't stare at Marcus's gauntlets, didn't talk about his hands. He just talked about regular things. How the porridge tasted like wet sand, how Instructor Blackwood's toupee shifted when he demonstrated sword techniques, how the Eastern Academy had better libraries but worse beds. Within a week, they were training together. Within a month, they were inseparable. "Your defense is perfect," Timothy said one evening as they practiced in the courtyard. "But you never attack." "Aldrich says defense is the foundation," Marcus replied, blocking Timothy's thrust. "Master that first." "Aldrich the janitor?" Marcus hesitated. His sessions with Aldrich in the abandoned chapel were secret, sacred. But this was Timothy. "He was a knight once, Sir Aldrich the Mighty." Timothy's eyes widened. "No way! The Aldrich the Mighty? Hero of Iron Valley? He's here?" "You've heard of him." "My grandfather served under him, said he was the greatest defensive fighter who ever lived. Could hold a bridge against 100 men. Timothy lowered his sword. "And he's teaching you?" Marcus nodded. Timothy whistled low. "Can I meet him?" "I'll ask." That night at the chapel, Marcus brought it up. Aldrich was showing him the immovable mountain stance, a defensive position that could absorb almost any blow. "The boy has soft eyes," Aldrich said. It wasn't a question. "Is that bad?" "For a knight, usually. For a friend,
It's everything.
Aldrich adjusted Marcus's stance.
Bring him tomorrow. See what he's made of.
Timothy came. Aldrich tested him, not with swords, but with questions. About honor, about strength, about what made a knight. Strength isn't about the biggest sword, Timothy said. It's about knowing when to swing it. Aldrich nodded approval.
You'll do.
And so they became 3. Every night after final bell, the old chapel rang with the sound of practice blades and Aldrich's gravelly instruction. Timothy was naturally gifted, fluid where Marcus was solid, quick where Marcus was steady. They complemented each other perfectly.
You two fight like sword and shield, Aldrich observed one night. Timothy strikes, Marcus defends. Apart, you're incomplete. Together,
he trailed off, something sad flickering across his face.
Together, you're dangerous.
3 more months passed. Marcus turned 12. Timothy gave him a gift, a small leather journal. For what? Marcus asked. For writing down Aldrich's teachings. This stuff shouldn't be forgotten. That night, Marcus wrote his very first entry. Strength without control is not strength at all. It's merely destruction waiting to happen. He wouldn't understand how prophetic those words were for another week. The announcement came during morning assembly, a special exhibition for advanced students. Full armor, real weapons, though blunted. The visiting dignitary was none other than the king's own weapons master, seeking exceptional talents for royal guard training.
Full armor includes the heavy suit,
Instructor Blackwood announced, for those strong enough to wear it. The heavy suit was legendary at the academy. 20 stones of reinforced plate, designed for siege warfare. Only the instructor could wear it properly. Students who tried couldn't even stand. Harold boasted he'd be the first student to fight in it. Others placed bets who would even be able to walk in it. Marcus and Timothy exchanged glances. They'd been training in weighted vests with Aldrich, building strength, slowly. Maybe. The night before the exhibition, Aldrich was quiet during their training. You're troubled, Marcus observed.
The heavy suit is not a toy, Aldrich said. I've seen grown men crushed inside armor they couldn't control.
We'll be careful, Timothy promised. Aldrich grabbed Timothy's shoulder, his twisted hand surprisingly strong.
Careful isn't enough. That armor amplifies everything. Your strength, your momentum, your mistakes. In the old wars, heavy armor knights were weapons of last resort. They couldn't stop once they started.
Then we won't use it, Marcus said. But Aldrich shook his head.
No, the weapons master will expect to see it demonstrated. Just remember what I taught you. Control. Always control.
The exhibition day dawned bright and cold. The arena was packed. Nobility, merchants, even some legendary retired knights. The weapons master sat in place of honor, her scarred face unreadable. The early matches were standard, skilled but forgettable. Then came the announcement everyone was waiting for.
For our final demonstration, Instructor Blackwood declared, Harold Ironson will attempt the heavy suit.
Harold strutted out, but when the armor was brought forth, his confidence visibly wavered. It took 4 squires to help him into it. He managed 3 steps before crashing to his knees. The crowd murmured disappointment. Anyone else? The weapons master called out, her voice carrying despite its quietness. Timothy stood. Marcus and I will try, together. Marcus's blood went cold. Tim, what are you doing? Trust me, Timothy whispered. One of us defends in the heavy suit, the other attacks. Show them what we can really do. Before Marcus could protest, they were being ushered forward. The crowd buzzed with excitement. 2 students attempting what one couldn't. Who wears the armor? The instructor asked. Marcus, Timothy said immediately. He's the defender. Marcus wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed danger. But Timothy's soft eyes were bright with confidence, with trust. How could he say no to the only friend he's ever had? The armor was a mountain of metal. As they strapped him in, Marcus felt his gauntleted hands trembling inside. The weight was incredible, but the training with Aldrich had prepared him. He could stand. He could move. The demonstration is simple, the weapons master announced. The armored knight must defend against 3 minutes of continuous assault. Begin. Timothy circled him, practice sword flashing. Marcus raised his arms. The movement felt like pushing through water. But the gauntlets Aldrich had given him seemed to help, distributing the weight. He blocked Timothy's first strike. The crowd cheered. Timothy attacked faster, a performance for the crowd. Marcus defended, each movement deliberate, controlled. They'd done this dance 100 times in the chapel. Even weighed down, muscle memory guided him. 2 minutes passed. Marcus was tiring, but standing. The weapons master leaned forward, interested. Then Timothy tried something new, a leaping attack they'd never practiced. Marcus saw it coming in slow motion, Timothy airborne, sword raised, expecting Marcus to step back as always. But the heavy armor didn't step. It lurched. Marcus felt his balance go. The armor's weight became momentum. He tried to stop it, to control it like Aldrich taught, but 20 stones of metal had its own will. He toppled backward, arms wailing. Timothy was still airborne, unable to change direction. Marcus's gauntleted fist, swinging wild for balance, caught Timothy in the chest. The sound was wet, decisive. Timothy's soft eyes went wide with surprise more than pain. He flew backward, 5 feet, 10, and hit the arena wall with another terrible sound. The crowd went silent. Marcus struggled in the armor, trying to get up, trying to get out, to get to Timothy. But he was trapped, a turtle on its back. He could only watch as Timothy tried to sit up, coughed once, and red spread across his lips. "I'm sorry," Marcus screamed, for the helmet muffled his words. "Timothy." Finally, squires rushed to remove the armor. Marcus burst free, stumbling to where Timothy lay. His friend was still conscious, those soft eyes finding Marcus's face. "Hey," Timothy whispered, "not your fault." "Don't talk, the healers." Marcus, Timothy's hand found his real hand, small and delicate, the gauntlet torn off in Marcus's desperation. "It's okay. I should have trusted your defense instead of showing off." The healers pushed Marcus aside. He watched them work, saw them exchange glances, saw the hope leave their faces. They carried Timothy to the infirmary. Marcus followed, still in partial armor, metal clanking with each step. The crowd parted before him like he was diseased. He heard someone whisper, "Killed his only friend." Another, always knew Prince's hands would snap. Outside the infirmary, Aldrich waited. The old janitor's face was stone. "Tried to control it," Marcus said, voice breaking. "I tried."
"I know, boy."
"Well, he..."
3 ribs shattered, punctured lung, internal bleeding.
Aldrich's voice was steady, clinical.
"He's asking for you."
Marcus entered the infirmary on numb legs. Timothy was propped up, breathing shallow. The soft eyes found him immediately. "Hey, Marcus." "Tim, I'm so sorry. Stop," Timothy coughed, more red on his lips. "I want to tell you something." Marcus knelt beside the bed. "That first day," Timothy wheezed, "I didn't sit with you because you were alone. I sat with you because, in the courtyard that morning, I saw you return a baby bird to its nest. Gentle as anything with those gauntleted hands. Knew right then you were worth knowing."
"Tim."
"The journal. Keep writing. Don't let Aldrich's teachings die with. Timothy's eyes, those impossibly soft eyes, went unfocused. The healer pushed Marcus back, working frantically. But there was too much damage, too much blood where blood shouldn't be. Timothy died as the sun set, hand in Marcus's small, uncovered hand. They let Marcus stay with the body for an hour. He sat there, staring at his hands, his mother's hands, his cursed hands, his killing hands. The gauntlets lay discarded on the floor. When he finally emerged, the hallway was full of students. They pressed against the wall as he passed, fear naked on their faces. Not mockery anymore, pure fear. Harold was there, his usual sneer replaced with something else. Marcus walked past him, past all of them, to the chapel where Aldrich waited. I killed him, Marcus said simply. The armor killed him. The exhibition killed him. The need to impress killed him. Aldrich's voice was tired. You were just the weapon. I don't want to be a weapon. Too late. Aldrich gestured to the gauntlets Marcus still carried. The moment you put those on, you chose to be more than what you were. Power always has a price. And I'll stop. I'll quit the academy. And go where? Do what? You think normal folk will accept you now? Word's already spreading. The boy with the cursed hands who killed his only friend. Aldrich stood, bones creaking. You can't go back, Marcus. Only forward. Forward to what? To becoming strong enough that this never happens again. Strong enough to control any armor, any weapon, any situation. Aldrich pulled something from his robes, Timothy's journal. He gave this to me before the exhibition. Said if something happened, you should have it. Marcus opened it. Timothy had been writing too. Page after page of observations, not about fighting techniques, but about Marcus. Day 12, Marcus spent his lunch break helping first years with their stance. He doesn't realize how good a teacher he is. Day 28, caught Marcus reading under his blanket with a candle. He was studying anatomy to understand where not to hit. Day 45, Marcus could have destroyed Harold in practice today, chose mercy instead. This is what real strength looks like. The last entry was from that morning. Today, Marcus wears the heavy armor. I've never been prouder of a friend. Whatever happens, I'll know he'll use this moment to become something greater. The world needs his kind of strength, the kind that protects, not destroys. Even if he can't see it yet, everyone else will. My friend is going to change everything. Marcus closed the journal, tears falling on the leather cover. He believed in you, Aldrich said quietly. Don't let that die, too. That night, alone in his bunk, Marcus put the gauntlets back on. They felt heavier now, weighted with more than metal. The other students had moved their bunks as far from his as possible. He was an island of emptiness and a sea of fear. He wrote in the journal, Day 1 after Timothy died, believing I was good. I'll spend every day trying to prove him right, even though I know he was wrong. The funeral was 3 days later. Timothy's family came, merchants from the east, soft-eyed like their son. His mother approached Marcus after. You're Marcus, she said. It wasn't a question. You're the one he wrote about every week. His dearest friend, the brother he chose. She pressed something into his hands, Timothy's practice sword. He'd want you to have this. I can't. You can, you will. Her soft eyes, Timothy's eyes, met his. He knew the risks. We all do when we send our children here. But he also knew friendship. Don't dishonor that by drowning in guilt. She left him holding the sword, standing alone in the cemetery. The other students watched from a distance, always from a distance now. That night, Aldrich found him in the chapel, swinging Timothy's sword over and over, tears streaming. Good, the old knight said. Cry, rage, feel it all. But tomorrow, we continue training. How can you say that? Because Timothy was right. The world needs strength that protects. You're going to find it, boy. You're going to find it or die trying. Marcus trained every night, harder than before. The gauntlets grew familiar as his own skin. Timothy's sword became an extension of his arm. But he never sparred with others again. Too dangerous, too much fear on both sides. The weapons master, before leaving, had pulled him aside. I've seen soldiers for 30 years, she said. Seen them break in every possible way. You're breaking differently. You're breaking into something else. She studied his gauntlets. When you're done breaking, when you've reformed into whatever you're becoming, find me. The kingdom has use for weapons that know their own danger. Marcus watched her go, understanding the truth in her words. He was breaking, shattering. Every night he felt pieces of the old Marcus, the boy who hoped to make friends, who dreamed of knighthood glory, crumble away. In their place, something else grew, something that trained in darkness, something that wore strength like armor, something that would never, ever lose control again. The academy gave him a private room after that, for safety, they said. Marcus knew better. It was isolation, containment. They were afraid of what he was becoming. Good, he thought. They should be. Because late at night, when he put on the gauntlets and held Timothy's sword, when he practiced the forms Aldrich taught him, Marcus could feel it. The terrible strength building inside him. The power that had killed Timothy was still there, just waiting. But now it had purpose, direction, control. He would master it, master himself, become the weapon Timothy believed he could be. One that protected, even if he had to stand alone to do it. Even if alone was all he'd ever be. They stopped laughing at his hands, but the silence was so much worse. The forge had become his home. 2 years had passed since Timothy died, and Marcus lived more in the academy's metalworking chambers than in his assigned room. The master stopped questioning why a 14-year-old boy spent 18 hours a day hammering steel. They'd seen his hands, seen what those delicate fingers could do when wrapped in metal. Better he exhaust himself on iron than people. Marcus held up his latest creation to the firelight. Another failure. The gauntlet was too heavy, the weight distribution wrong. He threw it onto the pile with the others. 6 months of attempts to build something that could contain what he was becoming. Aldrich's gauntlets, those precious gifts, had cracked 3 weeks ago during a training session. Marcus had been practicing the immovable mountain stance when he'd felt the metal split, not from any impact, but from the inside out. From him. Your body's changing, Aldrich had said, examining the ruined gauntlets. Growing into something the Academy's never seen. Growing into a monster, perhaps, but even monsters can choose what kind they become. That night, Marcus had started his real work. Not gauntlets anymore, those were half measures, bandages on a bleeding wound. He needed something absolute, something that would replace his hands entirely, remove the temptation to ever touch the world with flesh again. The design came to him in dreams, massive spheres of metal, each one the size of a man's head, attached at the wrists, sealed permanently. No fingers to accidentally brush against someone, no palms to accidentally push too hard, just controlled, deliberate force. Beautiful in their brutality. The first attempt had been laughable, hollow spheres that dented on impact. The second, too solid, too heavy to lift. But with each failure, Marcus learned the metal needed to be layered like Damascus, weight at the core for momentum, lighter alloys on the surface for speed, channels throughout for balance. By attempt 30, he was close. You're not sleeping, Harold said from the forge doorway. Marcus didn't look up from his hammering. Since when do you care? Since the instructors started taking bets on when you'll collapse. Harold stepped inside, keeping careful distance. They hadn't spoken properly since Timothy's funeral. Also, the whole dormitory can hear you hammering at night. It's been months. Then sleep somewhere else. Harold watched him work for a moment. Those aren't gauntlets. No. What are they? Marcus lifted the sphere he was working on. It was beautiful in its simplicity. A perfect ball of destruction, channels carved throughout in intricate patterns that would distribute impact evenly. They're the answer. To what question? How do I stop killing people accidentally? Harold went quiet, and then, by making it intentional? Marcus finally looked at him. Harold had grown in 2 years, now standing a head taller than most boys their age. But he stepped back when Marcus met his eyes. By removing the accident from the equation, Marcus said, With these, there's no mistaking what I am, no pretending to be normal, no friend getting too close and paying the price. Timothy wouldn't want. The hammer in Marcus's hand bent. Just bent. The metal folding like paper where fingers gripped. Both boys stared at it. Timothy's dead, Marcus said quietly, because I couldn't control my strength. Because I tried to pretend these, he held up his hands, still delicate, still his mother's, could ever be anything but weapons. He turned back to his work. After a moment, Harold left. 3 nights later, the spheres were ready. Marcus stood alone in the forge, staring at his creation. They were perfect, terrible, and perfect. Each sphere weighed 5 stone, but the weight distribution made them manageable. The attachment mechanism would seal around his wrists, only removable with specific tools he would destroy after. Once he put them on, there was no going back. He thought of his mother's last kiss on his palms, of Timothy holding his hand as he died, of every moment his hands have ever been gentle, useful, human. Then he thought of Timothy's crushed chest, of the fear in everyone's eyes, of the 14 boys who'd been injured in the past 2 years, just from forgetting his strength during casual contact, a handshake that broke fingers, a pat on the back that dislocated shoulders. Marcus placed his hand in the first sphere's opening. The mechanism was his finest work, springs and locks that would seal automatically, padding that would hold his hand immobile inside. He took a breath and pushed. The locks engaged with a series of clicks. The sphere sealed. His right hand was gone, replaced by 5 stones of deathly metal. The weight should have pulled him sideways. Instead, it felt balanced, right. The left hand was harder. He used his teeth to activate the mechanism, biting down on a leather strap that triggered the locks. Another series of clicks, another hand gone forever. Marcus stood, lifting both arms. The spheres responded perfectly, their weight converting to momentum with the slightest movement. He walked to the practice dummy in the corner, solid oak wrapped in leather, designed to withstand years of sword strikes. He touched it gently with one sphere, just touched it. The dummy exploded. Wood shrapnel embedded in the walls, the leather wrapping hung in tatters. Marcus stared at the devastation, waiting for horror or regret. Instead, he felt relief. No more pretending, no more accidents. He was exactly what he appeared to be now, a weapon in human form. The door burst open. Instructor Blackwood stood there, sword drawn, followed by half the night guard. They'd heard the explosion. They saw the destroyed dummy, the spheres where Marcus's hands should be, and Blackwood went pale. "What have you done?" "What I had to. Those things. Remove them immediately." "I can't." Marcus's voice was calm. "They don't come off." "That's insane. You're a child. You can't just..." Marcus turned sharply, and his right sphere brushed the forge's anvil. The anvil which had stood for 50 years, which had birthed 1,000 swords, cracked in half. Everyone stepped back. "I'm not a child," Marcus said. "Haven't been since Timothy died. Maybe never was." He looked at his reflection in the polished metal sphere. "Something else now." "You're expelled," Blackwood said immediately. "Effective immediately. Get out." "No." The word hung in the air. Nobody had ever simply said no to expulsion before. "What do you mean, no?" Blackwood's voice climbed higher. Marcus moved toward them, and they all retreated into the hallway. He didn't pursue, just stood in the doorway. Where would I go? Who would take me? I'm 14 with no family, no trade except violence, and these for hands. He lifted the spheres. "You made me. The Academy made me. You don't get to unmake me just because the result frightens you. The other students will be safer with me here, contained, than out there uncontrolled." Marcus met each guard's eyes. "You know it's true. You've all seen what I can do accidentally. Imagine what I might do if I got desperate, hungry, angry." Blackwood's face cycled through emotions, fear, rage, calculation. Finally, resignation.
The council will hear this.
Good. Tell them they have a weapon that needs pointing in the right direction. Marcus turned back to the forge. I'll be here, making these better. Don't worry, I won't attend regular classes anymore. Too dangerous. They left him there. What else could they do? Fight him? Drag him out? They'd seen the anvil split like butter. Aldrich came an hour later, moving slower than usual. The old knight was dying. Marcus could see it in the labored breathing, the gray tinge to his skin. But his eyes were still sharp.
Show me,
Aldrich said simply. Marcus demonstrated, a light tap that shattered stone, a sweep that created wind strong enough to knock over furniture. The spheres sang through the air, perfectly balanced despite their weight.
They're beautiful,
Aldrich said finally.
And terrible.
Like me?
Yes.
Aldrich sat heavily on a bench.
But beauty and terror aren't always enemies. The old kings knew that. They had knights like you, warriors who'd gone too far to come back. They called them Calamity Knights.
What happened to them?
They won impossible wars, held impossible lines, did impossible things.
Aldrich coughed, specks of blood hitting his palm.
And when there were no more impossible things needed, they were forgotten, hidden, erased from histories because they reminded people what humans could become.
Is that my future? To be erased?
Maybe. Or maybe you'll be the first to write a different ending.
Aldrich stood with difficulty.
I have one last lesson for you.
They went to the chapel, their sanctuary for so many years. Aldrich had him stand in the center, then circled him slowly.
The immovable mountain was always wrong for you,
Aldrich said.
Mountains don't move, but you're not meant to be still. You're meant to fall.
Fall?
Like a meteor, like judgment from above.
Aldrich pointed at the spheres.
Those aren't shields or swords. They're hammers. And hammers are meant to drop.
He spent the next hour teaching Marcus a new technique, the falling star, using the sphere's weight to build momentum, converting gravity into devastating force. It required jumps, precise timing, absolute commitment.
Each landing will be destruction,
Aldrich warned.
But controlled destruction, chosen destruction.
Marcus practiced until dawn, cratering the chapel floor with each attempt. By the end, he could direct the impact precisely, choosing where the force would go.
My final gift,
Aldrich wheezed, exhausted from teaching.
The Academy will try to contain you. The Council will try to use you. But this makes you free. A falling star chooses where it lands.
Aldrich.
I'll be dead within the month.
The old knight said it simply, like discussing weather.
Lung rot from the wars, finally catching up. But I got to see this. Got to teach one last night.
He touched one of the spheres gently.
Not the night I expected to teach, but maybe the one the world needs.
I'm not a knight. I'm a monster.
You're 14 years old, boy. Too young to be either. You're just Marcus, who carries too much weight.
Aldrich smiled sadly.
But one day you'll have to choose, knight or monster. And when that day comes, remember, Timothy thought you were worth believing in. So did I.
Aldrich left. Marcus never saw him alive again. The next morning, the Academy's courtyard was full. Every student, every instructor, the entire council, and in the place of honor, the king's warrior, the kingdom's supreme military commander. Marcus was summoned from the forge. He came as he was, soot-covered, exhausted, the spheres reflecting the morning sunlight like terrible mirrors. The warrior was a woman of 40 winters, scarred and weathered. She studied Marcus for a long moment. "Show me," she commanded. The council had set up a demonstration, 3 feet of solid stone wall, a full suit of armor on a stand, a line of practice weapons. Marcus approached the wall first. One swing, not even full force. The stone didn't just break, it powdered, dust filling the air. The armor next. He touched it with one sphere, gently as he could. The breastplate caved in, the entire suit crumpling like paper. The practice weapons he didn't even touch, just swung near them. The wind from his sphere's passage snapped the 3 swords in half. Silence. Then the warrior spoke. How did they come off? They don't. You're 14. Yes. You've sentenced yourself to a lifetime of this. No trade but war. No touch but violence. No future but blood. Marcus said nothing. What was there to say? The warrior turned to the council. Double his stipend, private quarters, private training ground, full access to the forge. But Blackwood started. He's right. Better here than anywhere else. She turned back to Marcus. You'll graduate in 1 month, not because you've earned it, but because the academy can't teach you anything more. You'll enter the arena circuits, not the student exhibitions, the real fights, blood sports. You'll learn what those spheres really mean when they hit flesh instead of stone. I already know, Timothy. Timothy was an accident. The arena won't be. You'll choose every death, own every death. That's your education now. She stepped closer, and Marcus realized she was one of the few people who didn't step back from him. The kingdom has had exactly 3 calamity knights in its history, knights who were too dangerous for normal service. You'll be the 4th. I haven't agreed. Yes, you have. The moment you put those on, you agreed. She gestured at the spheres. You made yourself into a weapon. Now you'll learn what weapons are for. She left. The crowd dispersed. Marcus stood alone in the courtyard, the morning sun warming the metal spheres. He thought of Timothy, of Aldrich, probably dying alone in his janitor's quarters. Of his mother, who'd kissed these hands goodbye so many years ago. He lifted the spheres, watching how they caught the light. They were beautiful in their way. Perfect instruments of violence, just like him. That night he wrote in Timothy's journal, Day 1 of the spheres. I've killed my hands to save others from them. Tomorrow I learn what I've become instead. Aldrich says I have a choice, knight or monster. I think he's wrong. I think I chose monster today. The only question now is what kind. A month later, he stood at the academy gates for the last time. 14 years old with spheres for hands and a graduation certificate that meant nothing. The arena waited. The blood sports waited. His education in violence waited. As he walked away, he heard the whispers from the students watching. There goes Mega Knight. The name stuck. So they gave him a diploma and showed him the door, never expecting him to survive the real world. The arena smelled like piss and terror. Marcus stood in the preparation chamber beneath the Crimson Colosseum, listening to 20,000 people scream for blood above him. His spheres, he'd started calling them the wrecking balls in his head, hung heavy at his sides. 6 months since he'd sealed them on. 6 months of training alone. 6 months of everyone calling him Mega Knight like it was a curse. Now, at barely 16, he was about to kill people for money. First time. The voice belonged to a scarred veteran, missing half his teeth. Can always tell. You're not breathing right. Marcus tried to steady his breath. The veteran laughed. Don't bother. Everyone paces themselves in their first fight. The crowd loves it. Terror makes the blood pump better when it spills. I've killed before, Marcus said quietly. Sure you have, boy. We all have. Training accidents, maybe a duel, but this, he gestured upward where the crowd roared. This is different. This is theater. You don't just kill here. You perform. A horn blasted. Marcus's turn. The gate lifted and sunlight blinded him. The noise hit him like a physical force. 20,000 voices merged into one hungry roar. The arena floor was sand, already dark with old blood. Fresh would be added today. His opponents entered from 3 other gates. The promoter had explained the format. 4 go in, 1 comes out. No rules except survive. Marcus studied them. A woman with twin swords moving like water. A giant with a warhammer, each step shaking the ground. An archer already knocking an arrow, finding distance. The horn blasted again. begin. The archer fired first. Marcus raised one sphere, the arrow shattering against it. The crowd gasped. They'd never seen someone block an arrow with their hand, but Marcus was already moving. The woman came from his left, swords flashing. Fast, incredibly fast. Marcus swung defensively and she danced back, testing. The giant charged from the right, hammer raised. Marcus trained for this, Aldrich's lessons, the falling star technique. But training with stone was different from training with people. People had eyes, fear, hope. The giant's hammer came down. Marcus caught it between both spheres. The impact sang through the metal, but the hammer stopped cold. The giant's eyes widened. Marcus twisted, and the hammer's head snapped off. The crowd exploded. He swung his right sphere in an arc, not aiming to kill, just to create space. But he'd forgotten. In the academy, he'd learned to hold back. Here, holding back was death. The woman's swords found his ribs, slicing through leather armor like paper. Pain bloomed, warm blood flowing. The crowd roared approval. Marcus stumbled back. The archer fired again. This arrow found his shoulder. The woman pressed forward. The giant grabbed his ruined hammer shaft like a spear. They were going to kill him. The realization hit like cold water. This wasn't training, wasn't demonstration. He was going to die at 16 in sand and shit while people cheered. No. Marcus jumped. Not far, he hadn't mastered the falling star yet, but 10 feet up was enough. The crowd was silent, confused. A warrior in armor shouldn't be able to jump like that. He came down between the woman and the giant. Spheres hit the sand with explosive force. The impact created a crater, sent sand flying, knocked both opponents sprawling. Marcus felt his knees scream from the landing. He'd done it wrong, too much force absorbed by his body, instead of directed outward. But it had worked. The woman tried to rise. Marcus's sphere found her head. The sound was wet, final. She dropped, red spreading into sand. The crowd's roar changed pitch. Excitement. They wanted blood, and now they had it. The giant backed away, fear replacing confidence. Marcus advanced, spheres swinging, each step deliberate, theatrical. The veteran below had been right. This was performance. The giant swung his broken hammer shaft desperately. Marcus caught it, pulled, brought the giant close enough to see his eyes, blue like Timothy's had been. Marcus hesitated. An arrow sprouted from his thigh, the archer still fighting. The pain broke his hesitation. He brought one sphere across in a horizontal arc. The giant's chest caved in. Another wet sound. Another body in the sand. 2 down. Marcus turned to the archer, arrow shaft protruding from his leg. Each step was agony, but he kept them steady. The crowd was cheering now. Mega Knight. Mega Knight. The archer fired rapidly. 3 arrows. Marcus deflected 2, took the third in his left shoulder. 4 arrows in him now, blood loss making the world blur at the edges. But he kept walking. The archer backed against the arena wall. No more room. He dropped his bow and drew a knife. "Please," he said quiet enough that only Marcus heard. "I have children." So did she. Marcus nodded at the woman's corpse. So did he. "Please." Marcus raised one sphere. The archer closed his eyes. The sphere came down. The crowd erupted. 20,000 people on their feet, screaming approval. Marcus stood in the center of 3 corpses, arrows sticking from him like a pincushion, blood pooling at his feet. He won. He turned to acknowledge the crowd and vomited inside his helmet. The blood, the smell, the reality of what he'd done. It all hit at once. He dropped to his knees, spheres thudding in the sand. The crowd thought it was exhaustion. They cheered louder. Medics rushed out, pulling arrows, stitching wounds. They dragged him below, the crowd still chanting his name. In the preparation chamber, Marcus ripped his helmet off and vomited again. "Told you," the veteran from before said. "Everyone pisses themselves the first time. You did good though. That jump. Never seen anything like it." "I killed them." "That's the job. The archer had children.
We all do. Or parents, or lovers, or dreams. The veteran shrugged. You think about that, you go mad. So you don't think. You just survive. A man in expensive robes entered. Garrett Goldhand, the promoter. His eyes gleamed with greed. Magnificent. That jump, those weapons. You're gonna make us both very rich. I just want to survive, Marcus muttered. Oh, you'll do more than that. You're special. Unique. The crowd loves you already. Garrett handed him a heavy purse. Your earnings. Triple the standard rate. You're a natural showman. Marcus looked at the gold. Blood money, in the most literal sense. When's the next fight? Tomorrow. Strike while the iron's hot. The crowd will want to see if the jump was a fluke. Tomorrow. Marcus's wounds screamed at the thought. Heal tonight, fight tomorrow. That's the rhythm. You'll get used to it. Marcus was given a room above a tavern, not fancy but private. He sat on the bed, spheres resting on his knees, and counted his money. Enough to live for months, earned in 5 minutes of murder. He pulled out Timothy's journal and wrote, First arena fight, 3 dead. The crowd loved it. I vomited twice. Tomorrow I do it again. This is my education now, learning to kill without thinking. The woman had brown eyes, the giant had blue. The archer begged. I killed them all anyway. That night he dreamed of Timothy. His friend stood in the arena sand, soft eyes sad. Is this what you think I meant? Timothy said, when I said you'd change everything. I'm surviving. No, you're dying, just slowly, from the inside out. Marcus woke to pounding on his door. Dawn. Time to kill again. The second fight was easier. 7 opponents this time, a melee bout. Marcus jumped higher, landed harder. 3 died from the impact alone. The others fell quickly. The crowd started calling him the falling star. The 3rd fight he didn't vomit after. The 10th fight he didn't count the bodies. By the 12th, he'd stopped seeing their eyes. 3 months in, he was the Crimson Coliseum's main attraction. People came from 3 kingdoms to see the boy with spheres for hands who dropped from the sky like judgment. The promoter raised ticket prices. Marcus's purse grew heavier. He wrote less in Timothy's journal. What was there to say? Killed 6 today, crowd cheered, made money. Repeat tomorrow. The other fighters feared him now. Some begged, some prayed, some fought harder, knowing death was coming either way. Marcus killed them all with mechanical precision. Jump, land, swing, death. 6 months in, something changed. Her name was Rosa. She was the arena's new medic, replacing the old drunk who'd been stitching fighters badly. Young, maybe 18. Hands steady as she pulled arrows from Marcus's shoulder after a particularly brutal bout. You're quieter than the others, she said, working. Marcus said nothing. The others, they boast, joke, threaten. She pulled the last arrow free. You just sit there. Nothing to say. There's always something to say. She started stitching. You're young. Younger than me, I think. 16. Her hands paused. 16? You're a child. No, I haven't been a child in years. She finished stitching in silence, but her touch was gentler. When done, she studied him. Those spheres, did they ever come off? Never. How do you sleep? Badly. She almost smiled. I meant physically. On my back, arms at my sides, he demonstrated, lying on the medical table, like a corpse. That's sad. It's practical. Then she was quiet for a moment. I watch your fights. You could win faster, kill cleaner, but you don't. You make it a show. The crowd pays for a show. No, you're punishing yourself. Every extra minute in that sand, every arrow you take when you could avoid it. You're punishing yourself for something. Marcus sat up. You don't know me. I know guilt when I see it. She packed her medical supplies. I know self-hatred. I know someone who thinks they deserve every wound they take. Maybe I do. Maybe, but that's a choice, not a fate. She moved to leave, then turned back. I'll be here after every fight, to stitch you up, to remind you that you're still human under all that metal. Why? Because someone should. She left.
Marcus sat in the empty medical room, spheres reflecting lamplight. Human. He hadn't felt human in so long. The next fight, he was distracted, thinking about Rosa's words. An opponent's spear found a gap in his armor, piercing deep. The crowd gasped. Mega Knight was actually hurt, bleeding badly. Marcus crushed the spearman with perhaps more force than necessary. Rosa stitched him again after. You were thinking about something else out there. Your fault. Good. You should think. Feel. Otherwise, you're just a weapon. And weapons don't get to choose their purpose. I am just a weapon. No, she touched his face gently. The first gentle touch he'd felt since Timothy died. You're a boy who was turned into a weapon. There's a difference. That night, Marcus wrote in the journal, Rosa thinks I'm still human. I want to believe her, but humans don't kill 30 people a week for gold. Humans don't have spheres for hands. Humans can touch without destroying. The fights continued, but now Rosa was always there after, talking to him, treating him not as Mega Knight, but as Marcus. She brought him books, food that wasn't tavern slop, small reminders of life beyond blood, and sand. Why aren't you afraid of me? He asked, one day as she cleaned a particularly deep wound. Because fear is a choice too. She met his eyes. And I choose to see who you could be, not who you are. This is who I am. For now, but now isn't forever, she smiled sadly. You're 16. You have decades ahead of you. This doesn't have to be your whole story. What else could I be? These don't come off. He lifted the spheres. I don't know, but not knowing means possibility. She finished with his wounds. The day you stop wondering what else you could be is the day you really die. Marcus thought about that as he walked back to his room. Possibility. He'd given that up when he sealed the spheres on, hadn't he? A crowd gathered outside the tavern. They parted as he approached. Fame had its benefits, but one man didn't move, old, weathered, holding a package. You're Marcus, the man said, known as Mega Knight. Move or be moved. Aldrich sent me. Marcus froze. Aldrich's dead. Died 2 months ago, but he left instructions. Said to give you this when you survived 6 months in the arena. The man handed over the package. Said you'd earned it by then. Marcus took the package with numb spheres. The man disappeared into the crowd. Inside his room, Marcus carefully opened it. 2 items, a letter and a small metal key. The letter was in Aldrich's shaky handwriting. Boy, if you're reading this, you've survived longer than most Calamity Knights. You've learned to kill, learned to perform, learned to be the weapon everyone expects. Now learn the harder lesson, when to stop. This key opens a lockbox in the Royal Bank. Inside is enough gold to live for years, not as a fighter, as a person. It's my entire fortune. Turns out a janitor's salary adds up over decades. You can't remove the spheres, but you can choose where they go, what they do, who they protect, instead of destroy. Timothy believed you'd changed everything. Rosa, yes, I know about her. I had friends watching you. Believes you're still human. I believe you have a choice. Make it. Your teacher in all things, Aldrich. Marcus held the key. Freedom. Escape from the arena. The chance to be something else. Tomorrow was the Grand Championship. 20 fighters, last one standing, a purse large enough to buy a title. He'd already entered. The crowd was expecting their falling star. He could leave tonight, take Aldrich's gold and disappear, or he could fight tomorrow, keep killing, keep being the weapon. He looked at his reflection in the spheres. 16 years old with over 100 kills. The youngest arena champion in history if he won tomorrow. The most feared if he kept going. Rosa knocked on his door. I heard about tomorrow, the championship. You came to talk me out of it? No, I came to ask you a question. She sat beside him, unafraid of his proximity. After you win, and you will win, what then? Another championship, another 100 dead? When does it stop? I don't know. Then maybe it's time to find out. She stood to leave, paused at the door. Whatever you choose it as Marcus. not as Mega Knight, not as a weapon, as the boy who still writes in his friend's journal, trying to make sense of it all. She left. Marcus sat with Aldrich's key in his lap, Timothy's journal beside him, Rose's words echoing. Tomorrow, he would fight. He would probably win. 20 more would die. But after that, for the first time since he's sealed on the spheres, he had a choice. The thought terrified him more than any arena fight. He wrote in the journal, "Tomorrow is the championship. After that, Aldrich gave me a way out. Rosa thinks I'm still human. Timothy thought I'd change everything. I just want to stop seeing their eyes when I close mine. Is that enough reason to change? Is wanting to stop a kind of hope? I guess I'll find out." The crowd outside chanted his name. Mega Knight. Mega Knight. And tomorrow they'd get their show, their blood, their falling star. But after that, Marcus gripped the key tighter, and for the first time in months, allowed himself to imagine after. The name Marcus died that day, and from the ashes rose someone else. The championship had been a massacre. Marcus stood in the arena's center, 20 bodies scattered around him like fallen leaves. The sand was more blood than grit now, and the crowd's roar had transcended sound. It was a physical thing, pressing against him from all sides. Mega Knight. Mega Knight. He'd won in 12 minutes, a record that would stand for decades. The killing blow had been spectacular, a falling star from 30 feet up, cratering the arena floor, the shockwave alone killing 3 fighters. The crowd had gone silent for a heartbeat, then erupted. They'd never seen anything like it. They never would again. Because Marcus was done. He'd made his choice, standing there in blood-soaked sand with Aldrich's key burning in his pocket. This would be his last fight. After the ceremony, after the gold, he'd disappear, become someone else. Someone Rosa could look at without sadness. Someone Timothy might have been proud of. But first, there was the victory ceremony. Garrett Goldhand, the promoter, met him in the preparation chamber, practically vibrating with excitement. Behind him stood 3 people Marcus didn't recognize. Expensive clothes, calculating eyes. Magnificent, historic, transcendent. Garrett grabbed Marcus's shoulders, remembered the spheres, and then stepped back. "Do you understand what you've done? You've revolutionized arena combat. I killed 20 people. You created art, drama, the jump, the landing, poetry in violence." Garrett gestured to his companions. "These are representatives from the Capital Arena, the Desert Coliseum, and the Northern Death Pits. They all want you." "I'm done." The words hung in the air. Garrett's smile flickered. "Surely you jest. You're 16. You've got decades of glory ahead." "I'm done," Marcus repeated. Now, let's not be hasty." One of the representatives stepped forward, a woman with silver hair and cold eyes. "I'm Valeria Storm, manager of champions. I can make you the most famous warrior in history. Statues in every city, songs about your battles, gold enough to drown in." "I don't want fame." "Then what do you want?" Valeria studied him like a puzzle. "Power, women, land, name it." Marcus thought of Rose's gentle hand stitching his wounds, of the life Aldrich's gold could buy, of quiet mornings without blood. "I want to be forgotten." They laughed, all of them, even Garrett. "Too late for that, boy," Valeria said. "You're already a legend. The boy with spheres for hands, the falling star, Mega Knight. These names will outlive us all. Then I'll make new names." "It doesn't work that way." Garrett's voice had turned hard. "You signed contracts, 5 years of exclusive fights. You're mine until you're 21. Or until I die. Yes, or until..." Garrett's eyes widened. "You wouldn't." Marcus raised one sphere, studying his reflection in its surface. "I could end it right now, one swing to my own head. Your investment disappears, your legend dies with me." "You're bluffing." "I've killed over 100 people, what's one more?" Marcus met each of their eyes. "I'm done. Accept it or lose everything." Silence stretched. Finally, Valeria laughed. Genuine this time. "You really would, wouldn't you? Kill yourself just to spite us, to be free. She considered. A compromise then. 1 more year, 12 fights, 1 per month. But she raised a hand as Marcus started to object. Not death matches, exhibitions, demonstrations. You fight multiple opponents, but they can yield. No more mandatory kills. Why would you agree to that? Because a year of Mega Knight exhibitions will make us all rich enough to retire. And because, she smiled, I recognize someone who's already gone too far. Push you more and you break, but give you hope. You might just survive long enough to make us wealthy. Marcus considered. 12 fights, no mandatory kills, then freedom. I choose the venues, and the opponents yield when beaten. No shame in it. Agreed. And I want it in writing, witnessed by the King's seal. Valeria nodded. You're smarter than you look, boy. Yes, we'll make it official. They left to arrange the contracts. Marcus sat alone until Rosa arrived for the post-fight medical check. She saw something in his face. What happened? 1 more year, then I'm free. She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. It's wonderful you're getting out. 12 more fights, but no more deaths? Not if I can help it. She hugged him, actually hugged him, careful of the spheres but unafraid. Marcus stood frozen, unable to return the embrace, but feeling its warmth anyway. I'm proud of you, she whispered. That night there was a celebration. The championship always ended with a feast, the victor's glory, the crowd's entertainment. Marcus was presented to the 1,000 wealthiest spectators like a prize bull. He wore new armor, polished to mirror brightness. The spheres had been cleaned until they looked like silver moons. They'd given him a cape, red as blood, dramatic as sunset. Lords and ladies, Garrett announced, I present your champion, Mega Knight. The applause was thunderous. Marcus stood on the platform, letting them look. This was part of it, Valeria had mentioned. The mystique, the legend. Show them the jump, someone called. Make something explode. Is it true you killed a man with just the wind from your swing? Marcus said nothing. Silence was part of the mystique, too. Then a child pushed through the crowd, maybe 8 years old, dragging his embarrassed mother behind him. Mega Knight, Mega Knight. The boy's eyes were huge. You're my hero. I want to be just like you. Marcus knelt, bringing himself to the child's level. The crowd went quiet, watching. What's your name? Marcus's voice was gentle through the helmet. Thomas, sir. Like Sir Thomas the Bold from the stories. Marcus's heart clenched, so close to Timothy. Thomas, look at these. He raised the spheres. Do you know what these are? Your weapons. They're amazing. They're not weapons. They're chains. Marcus kept his voice low, but the acoustics carried it. I can never take them off. Never hold anything gently. Never write a letter. Never pet a dog. Never shake a hand. The boy's excitement dimmed. Never? Never. So don't be like me, Thomas. Be better. Be the knight that doesn't need these, who wins with skill, not just force. Can you do that? Thomas nodded solemnly. I'll try, sir. Good. Marcus stood. The crowd was silent, processing what they heard. Then someone started clapping, slow, thoughtful. Others joined, not the bloodthirsty roar of the arena, but something else. Something like respect. You just made yourself more legendary, Valeria whispered. The tragic warrior, the reluctant destroyer. They'll pay double to see you now. Marcus hadn't meant to. He just wanted to save one boy from his path. But everything he did now became legend, willing or not. The exhibitions began a month later. The first was in the Capitol Arena, Marcus against 10 convicted criminals given the choice of execution or combat. They could yield. Most did after the first Falling Star impact. The crowd got their show, the criminals got exile instead of death. Marcus got 1 month closer to freedom. Rosa traveled with them now, hired as his personal medic. She was the only one allowed in his preparation room, the only one who saw him vomit before each fight, because he still did, even without the deaths. The violence was still violence. 8 more months, she'd say, stitching wounds that didn't need to be there. You can do this. The exhibitions grew more elaborate. Valeria was a genius at spectacle. Marcus fought on bridges over rushing water, in forests where trees exploded from his impacts. Once, memorably on a frozen lake, where his falling star shattered the ice, sending opponents plunging into frigid water instead of death. The crowds loved it. Children played Mega Knights in the streets, jumping off walls with balls tied to their hands. Blacksmiths sold replica spheres. Poets wrote odes to the falling star. Marcus hated every second. But Rosa was there, every night, talking him through it, teaching him to read better. He'd never properly learned, showing him maps of places they could go when he was free, describing a life without blood and crowds. "There's a town in the mountains," she said one night, 6 months into the tour. "My cousin lives there. Says they need a blacksmith. You could work metal for plows instead of weapons." "With these?" Marcus gestured at the spheres. "You'd be surprised what you can do when violence isn't the goal," she smiled. "Besides, I'll help. I've been thinking about modifications, ways to add functionality." "Like what?" "Attachments, tools that could click into the spheres, not to replace your hands, but to give them purpose beyond destruction." Marcus stared at her. "You've been thinking about my future." "Someone has to. You're too busy surviving your present." That night, Marcus wrote in Timothy's journal. "Rosa plans for after. She sees me as someone with a future. I'm starting to believe her. 6 more months, then I can find out if Marcus still exists under all this metal and legend." The 8th exhibition changed everything. It was in Marcus's old kingdom, close enough to the Night Academy that some instructors attended. Instructor Blackwood was there, older now, watching from the royal box. The setup was simple: Marcus against 15 volunteer soldiers. No kills, pure demonstration of the falling star technique. But when Marcus entered the arena, one of the soldiers removed his helmet. Harold. Older, scarred, but unmistakably Harold. The one who'd mocked Princess Hands, who witnessed Timothy's death, who watched Marcus seal the spheres on. "Hello, Marcus," he said loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Or should I say Mega Knight?" The crowd murmured. They didn't know Marcus had another name. "Yield," Marcus said quietly. "This doesn't have to happen." "Oh, but it does," Harold smiled, but it was sad. "You're not the only one who became something else, you know. After you left, after what we saw you become, we all changed. The academy changed. They teach fear now, not honor." "It's not my fault." "Isn't it? You became the nightmare every instructor warns about. The cautionary tale. Train hard or end up like Mega Knight, more weapon than man." Marcus felt rage building. "I didn't choose." "You chose the spheres. You chose the arena. You chose to become this." Harold gestured at him. "And now I'm choosing too. I'm going to prove that you can be beaten, that the nightmare isn't invincible." Harold attacked. He was good. Years of training showed in every moment, but Marcus had killed over 100 people, had performed 8 months of exhibitions. He had become exactly what Harold said. More weapon than man. The fight lasted 30 seconds. Marcus's sphere caught Harold's sword, shattered it. The backswing took Harold in the chest, sending him flying 20 feet. He landed hard, ribs broken, coughing blood. Marcus approached to offer mercy, to help him yield. Harold laughed through the blood. "There he is, the killer. Not the reluctant warrior you pretend to be. The real Mega Knight. I'm not. You are. You always be. Those spheres don't come off, and neither does what you've become." Harold coughed. More blood. "But here's the thing, Marcus. I forgive you." "For what?" "For Timothy, for becoming this, for making us all afraid." Harold closed his eyes. "I forgive you. Someone has to." The medics carried Harold away, alive but barely. Marcus stood in the arena, spheres hanging limp as the crowd cheered a show they didn't understand. That night, Rosa found him sitting outside, staring at the stars. "It wasn't your fault," she said. "Wasn't it? I chose the spheres. I chose to fight. Every death, every drop of blood, I chose it. You chose to survive. Is that enough? Is survival worth becoming this?" He raised the spheres. Harold was right. I'm more weapon than man now. Rosa sat beside him, took his face in her hands, made him look at her. "You're Marcus, the boy who writes in his friend's journal, who warned a child not to follow his path. who vomits before fights because violence still sickens you, who dreams of being a blacksmith in a mountain town. She smiled sadly. You're not more weapon than man. You're a man carrying weapons he can't put down. There's a difference. What if I can't tell anymore? Then I'll remind you, every day if I have to. She kissed him then, soft, careful, mindful of everything he couldn't do with his hands. When she pulled away, Marcus was crying. 4 more months, she whispered. Then we disappear. Then you get to find out who Marcus is when he's not being Mega Knight. 4 more months. Marcus held on to that like a lifeline. But in the crowd that night, someone had been watching. Someone with a very good memory and a very old yearbook. Someone who recognized the boy behind the legend. 4 more months seemed like forever. But it wouldn't be nearly long enough. Fairy tales weren't meant for monsters, and the yearbook would make sure of that. The morning started like any other performance day. Marcus woke in his tavern room, Rosa already there with breakfast. 3 more exhibitions left, 3 more months until freedom. They'd been planning a small cottage in the mountains, far from any arena. Rosa had even drawn blueprints of a fort that could accommodate his fears. After the show today, we should leave immediately, Rosa said, spreading a map on the table. The mountain pass will be clear for another month before winter. You're eager to leave? Aren't you? She touched his face gently. Marcus, we're so close to you being just you. A knock at the door interrupted them. Valeria entered without waiting for permission, which was unusual. Her face was stone. We have a problem. She tossed something on the table. A piece of parchment, cheaply printed. Marcus's blood went cold before he understood what he was seeing. It was him, age 10, tiny, delicate hands held up to the camera, palms forward, fingers spread, the Academy yearbook photo they'd all been forced to take. Above it in large letters, Mega Knight's secret shame, the princess hands he hides. Below, a smaller text told his story, the bullying, the accident with Timothy, his fears, all of it but twisted, made ugly, made shameful. These are everywhere, Valeria said. Someone printed thousands. They're in every tavern, every market stall, every arena entrance. The crowd for today's exhibition is already laughing. Marcus stared at the photo. His hands, his mother's hands, looked so small, so perfect, so human. Who? His voice was hollow. Does it matter? It's done. Valeria paced. We need to control this, spin it, make it part of your legend, the boy who overcame weakness to become. Get out. Marcus, get out. Valeria fled. Rosa didn't. She picked up the flyer, studied it. You were so young, she said softly. I was weak. You were a child who lost his mother, who was bullied, who was afraid. She set the flyer down. There's no shame in that. The entire kingdom's laughing at me. Let them. In 3 months, we'll be gone. You don't understand. Marcus stood, sphere swinging. This photo, these hands, this is what I've been running from, what I killed to escape. And now everyone knows. Everyone knows you were human once, that you became this. She gestured at the spheres. To protect yourself. How's that shameful? Marcus couldn't answer. The shame was too old, too deep. It had been carved into him by years of mockery, sealed in by Timothy's death. Made permanent by these spheres. Another knock. Garrett entered, excited despite the tension. Incredible turnout. They're paying triple prices to see you today. The yearbooks made you even more famous. They're coming to mock me. They're coming to see the truth, the human story behind the legend. Garrett rubbed his hands together. Play into it. Show them those photos made you stronger. Give them a real show. Marcus felt something break inside him. A real show, always a show. Fine, he said quietly. I'll give them a show they'll never forget. The arena was packed beyond capacity. 30,000 people, all holding those damned flyers. When Marcus entered, the noise was different. Not the usual bloodthirsty roar, but laughing, mocking, cruel laughter. Princess hands, princess hands. Marcus stood in the center, letting it wash over him. Every taunt from childhood magnified by thousands. Every moment of shame echoed back infinitely. His opponents entered, 10 soldiers, volunteers for an exhibition. They were laughing too. The horns sounded. Marcus didn't hold back. The first falling star cratered half the arena. 3 soldiers disappeared in the impact. Not yielding, gone. The crowd's laughter died. He grabbed another soldier with 1 sphere, crushed him against the arena wall. The wet sound echoed in the sudden silence. Another tried to yield. Sword dropped, hands raised. Marcus's sphere went through his chest anyway. "Stop," someone screamed from the crowd. They were yielding. Marcus didn't stop. Jump, impact, death. Again, again, again. All 10 soldiers dead in under a minute. The arena floor was cracked, cratered, painted red. Marcus stood in the center, breathing hard. Then he reached up and removed his helmet, showing his face. Young, scarred, tears streaming. "You want to see princess hands?" He rolled at the crowd. "Here they are." He held up the spheres, blood-drenched. "These were my hands, small, delicate, human." His voice broke. "And you laughed. You all laughed. So I became this. I became your monster, your entertainment, your mega knight." The crowd was silent. Some were leaving, horrified. Others sat frozen. "But you know what?" Marcus laughed, wild and broken. "You were right to laugh, because these hands," he slammed the spheres together, the clang ringing across the arena, "killed the only friend I ever had, killed over 100 people, and will keep killing until someone stops me." He turned slowly, addressing the entire crowd. "I am Marcus of the small hands, Marcus the princess, Marcus the weak." He spread his arms wide. "Look at what your mockery created. Look at it." Then he jumped, higher than ever before, 50 feet, 60. At the apex, he tucked into a ball, spheres pulled tight. The falling star impact destroyed a quarter of the arena. Stone exploded outward, support beams cracked. Part of the crowd seating collapsed. People screamed, fleeing. In the chaos, Marcus walked out of the arena, unopposed. Rosa found him an hour later, sitting by the river outside town, watching his reflection in the water. 15 dead in the collapse, she said quietly. Dozens injured. "I know. The kingdom's branded you as an outlaw. There's a bounty." "I know." She sat beside him. "This isn't you." "Isn't it?" Marcus lifted the spears. "I've been pretending these made me a monster, but maybe I was always this. Maybe the hands were just hiding it." "You're hurt and lashing out." "I'm done pretending, Rosa." He turned to her, and she saw something had changed in his eyes. Broken. That photo, that yearbook, it's the truth. I was weak, pathetic. Marcus with tiny hands. And I'd rather be a monster than be him again. "You don't mean that." "Don't I? Look what I just did. I killed surrendering men, destroyed a building full of innocents, because they laughed." He stood. "That's not a man, Rosa. That's a monster." "Then be a monster who chooses differently tomorrow." "No." His voice was hollow. "You should leave now, before I hurt you too." "Marcus." "Leave." He swung one sphere at a tree. It exploded into splinters. Rosa stepped back, fear finally showing in her eyes. "This isn't you," she whispered again. "This is exactly me. This is all I am." He turned away. "Go find your mountain town. Find someone with real hands, someone who can hold you without destroying you." "I don't want someone else. I want you." "You want who you thought I was. But that person died today. Maybe he never existed." Rosa was crying now. "Please, we're so close. 3 more months." "There is no 3 months. There is no after. There's just this." He held up the spheres. "Forever." She left. Marcus heard her footsteps fade, taking the last of his hope with them. That night he found a cave outside town. Scratched into the wall was graffiti for some long-ago traveler. "Here sleeps a monster." Perfect. Marcus settled in, spheres resting on his knees. He pulled out Timothy's journal, turned to a blank page. The yearbook killed Marcus today. What's left is just Mega Knight, the monster they all wanted, the joke they all feared, Princess Hands is dead. The boy who dreamed of being better is dead. Rosa's Marcus is dead. All that's left is the killing machine. Good. It's easier this way. But his tears fell on the page, smudging the ink. Even in declaring himself a monster, he wept like the boy he claimed was dead. Outside, bounty hunters were gathering. The kingdom wanted his head. The crowd wanted revenge. Everyone wanted the monster gone. In the cave, Marcus, or what was left of him, laughed. Let them come. Let them all come. He was done pretending to be anything but what those small, perfect hands had always been destined to become. A weapon, a joke, a monster. The next morning, he walked to the nearest arena. Not to perform, not for gold, just to fight. To hurt. To be what they'd made him. The crowd saw him coming and ran, but some fighters stayed. Young knights eager for the bounty. Old warriors seeking glory. Marcus killed them all. No performance, no show, just mechanical, efficient death. Days blurred together. Arena to arena, fight to fight. The bounty rose, the fear spread. Soon when he approached an arena, even the fighters fled. They called him different names now. Not Mega Knight, that had been the performer. This was something else. The Ruined Knight. The Walking Death. The Lost Boy. That one hurt the most because it was so close to true. One night, camping in another nameless cave, Marcus found something tucked in Timothy's journal. A letter he'd never noticed. Rosa's handwriting. Marcus, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you're lost. But lost isn't the same as gone. Lost means you can still be found. I saw that yearbook photo before it was published. I knew it was coming. I could have warned you, but I thought maybe facing it would free you. I was wrong. I'm sorry. But here's what you don't understand. That photo doesn't show weakness. It shows the last moment you were purely yourself, before the armor, before the spheres, before the fear. Those hands, your mother's hands, built things, created, helped. They were never meant for destruction. The spheres don't change that, they just hide it. Someday when the anger fades, when the hurt scabs over, remember, you're not what they made you. You're not even what you made yourself. You're Marcus. Just Marcus. And that's enough. It's always been enough. R. Marcus read it 3 times, then burned it. He didn't deserve her hope. But he kept the ashes, tucked them in the journal next to the yearbook photo someone had slipped inside. Him at 10, hands spread, smiling before the world taught him to hide. That boy was dead, but his ghost haunted every swing of the spheres. 3 months passed. The exhibition's contract expired. Valeria and Garrett had long since fled. Their investment turned a nightmare. The kingdom increased the bounty again. Marcus didn't care. He stood in yet another arena, surrounded by yet more corpses. The crowd long since fled. Alone with the spheres and shame. Is this what you wanted? He asked the empty seats. Is this the joke? Princess Hands became a killer? No answer. There never was. He left the arena, walked into the wilderness. No destination, no purpose, just movement. But even monsters dream. And in his dreams, Rosa still planned mountain cottages while his mother kissed his small, perfect palms. If they wanted a monster, he would give them one. They gave him a crown made of fear. Not a real crown. Marcus wouldn't have worn one anyway. But in every tavern from the western wastes to the capital, they whispered the same thing. The villain king walks among us. 3 years had passed since the yearbook destroyed him. 3 years of wandering, fighting, becoming exactly what they expected. Marcus stood at the edge of Thornwood Arena, watching the sun die behind the mountains. Inside, 40 fighters waited, not for sport anymore. The kingdom had stopped pretending this was entertainment. These were executions, and he was the executioner they hired when they wanted somebody thoroughly dead. You came, a voice said behind him. Marcus didn't turn. You paid. Lord Garrett, not the promoter but his nephew, stepped into view. Soft-faced, soft-bellied, soft in every way that mattered. 40 of my father's enemies, all trained killers, all in one room. The price stands 10,000 gold. That's enough to buy a small kingdom. Then buy one instead. Garrett laughed nervously. They say you've killed over 500 men now. I stopped counting at 200. They say you can't be killed, that swords break on your skin. They say a lot of things. They say you were human once. Marcus finally looked at him. Garrett stepped back immediately. Everyone did when they saw his eyes now. Empty things, dead things. No, Marcus said. I was never human. I was just pretending better back then. He entered the arena. 40 fighters, all condemned men given a choice. Die on the gallows or die fighting Mega Knight. They'd chosen the slim hope of combat. Marcus almost respected that. They'd planned, he could tell, formations, strategies. Some had nets, hoping to tangle his spears. Others had long spears, seeking distance. A few had shields, as if metal could stop what was coming. The horn sounded. Marcus didn't jump, didn't perform, just walked forward. The first spear carrier thrust at him. Marcus caught the spear between his spears, pulled the men close, and crushed his skull with a casual swing. Efficient, mechanical. The net throwers tried next. The weights tangled around his right spear. Marcus spun, using the net's own momentum to drag 3 men together, then brought his left spear down. The sound was wet. No crowd cheered. There was no crowd, just Lord Garrett watching from his safe box, paying to see his problems disappear. A young fighter, maybe 18, dropped his sword. Please, he begged, I have... Marcus's spear cut him off mid-sentence. He'd heard all the pleas. They all had families, they all had reasons. They all died anyway. 20 down, 20 to go. They tried rushing him together. It didn't matter. The spears were pendulums of death, each swing calculated for maximum devastation. Bodies flew, bones shattered. Blood painted the sand in patterns that would haunt Lord Garrett's dreams. The last fighter was old, a scarred veteran of real wars. He didn't beg, didn't run, just stood there, sword lowered. I knew Timothy, he said quietly. Marcus paused, served with his father in the border wards. Good family, kind boy. The veteran met Marcus's dead eyes. He'd weep to see what you've become. Marcus's spear took his head off. 40 dead in 8 minutes, a new record he didn't care about. Lord Garrett paid through intermediaries, too frightened to approach. Marcus took his gold and left, blood still dripping from the spears. Outside, a small crowd had gathered, not to watch, but to witness, to say they'd seen the villain king work. Children hid behind their parents. Adults averted their eyes. One drunk man, braver or stupider than the rest, spat at Marcus's feet. Monster, he slurred. Marcus kept walking. They weren't wrong. He'd taken residence in an abandoned tower outside the city. Once a wizard's home, they said. Cursed and left to rot. Perfect for someone like him. The walls were thick enough to muffle his nightmares. High enough that no one climbed to visit. That night he sat at a broken table, counting gold by candlelight. 10,000 pieces. Enough to disappear, to find that mountain town Rosa had dreamed of. But mountains were for people with futures. Marcus had only past and present, both soaked in blood. A knock at the door surprised him. No one ever knocked on the villain king's door. He opened it to find a child, maybe 8, same age as the boy who'd wanted to be like him once. They said he'd kill me, the child said, but I don't care. What do you want? My sister's gone, taken by Lord Garrett's men for his brothels. The child held out a single copper piece. It's all I have. Marcus stared at the copper. A day's bread for a poor family. I don't save people, he said. I know, but you kill people, and the men who took her need killing. Marcus almost smiled. Almost. Keep your copper, he said, closing the door. But that night, Lord Garrett's brothel burned. 17 guards died, crushed, broken, destroyed. The girls escaped in the chaos. No one saw who did it, but everyone knew. The villain king had worked for free. It started happening more often. Marcus would refuse the sob stories, the begging, the pitiful payments. Then, in darkness, the problems would disappear. Slavers found dead, corrupt guards crushed, rapists discovered in pieces. He never admitted it, never took credit. The deaths were just added to his legend, more proof of his monstrosity. But sometimes, walking through town for supplies, he'd see a freed slave or an avenged widow, and they'd nod, just slightly, just enough. Marcus told himself it meant nothing. He was still a monster, just a monster with peculiar habits. One evening, sitting in his tower, he opened Timothy's journal. He'd filled it now, observations, not about fighting techniques, but about the people he'd killed, their last words, their final moments. A catalog of death. On the last page he wrote, "They call me the Villain King. They're right. Heroes save people. I just kill the right ones sometimes. There's a difference. Heroes get happy endings. Villains get what they deserve. I'm waiting for what I deserve." A commotion outside drew his attention. Torches, many of them. A mob had finally formed. Marcus descended his tower, spears ready, but the mob wasn't attacking. They were kneeling. "Villain King," their leader called out, an older woman with tired eyes. "We seek justice." "I don't do justice." "Then vengeance. Lord Garrett has ordered a purge. Says the poor sector breeds rebels. Plans to burn it tomorrow. 3,000 people." "Not my problem." "We'll pay." The woman gestured, and people started placing things on the ground. Not gold, they had none. Bread, cloth, family heirlooms, children's toys. "We have nothing else," the woman said, "but you're all we have too." Marcus looked at the pathetic offerings. A wooden horse carved with love, a wedding ring worn thin, a baby's blanket carefully mended. "I'm not a hero," he said. "We're not asking for a hero. We're asking for the monster who sometimes points the right direction." Marcus turned away. "Take your things and go." They left everything anyway. That night, Lord Garrett held a feast celebrating his upcoming purge. Wine flowed, music played. Rich men laughed about poor men's screams. The falling star came through the roof. Marcus landed in the feast hall's center, cratering the floor, sending nobles flying. Lord Garrett barely had time to scream before a spear found him. "Monster!" someone shrieked. "Yes," Marcus agreed, and continued his work. 20 minutes later, the nobility of 3 provinces were paced. Marcus walked out through the front door, past terrified servants he hadn't touched. The poor sector still stood. It would keep standing. But now the entire kingdom wanted him dead. Not just a bounty, an actual army mobilized. The Villain King had gone too far, killed too many important people. Marcus returned to his tower to find someone waiting. Rosa. Older, sadder, but still Rosa. She stood in his doorway like she belonged there. "Hello, Marcus. I told you to leave. You tell me a lot of things. I don't always listen." She stepped closer. He stepped back. "I just killed 50 nobles. 50 nobles who were planning genocide. I'm not a hero, Rosa. I'm not asking you to be." She pulled out a letter, royal seal. "The princess wants to meet you." "To execute me?" "To offer you a position. Royal executioner, legal killing, sanctioned monster." Rosa set the letter on his broken table. "It's not redemption, but it's something." "Why do you care?" "Because I saw you leave toys and wedding rings untouched while you waded through noble blood." She moved toward the door. "The meeting's tomorrow, noon. The crossroads. It's a trap." "Probably, but you'll come anyway. Because part of you, the small part with delicate hands, still wants to be more than this." She left. Marcus read the letter. Princess Catherine, heir to the throne, offering him purpose, direction. A villain's crown made official. He laughed, bitter, broken. But he'd go, because Rosa was right. Some stupid, weak part of him still hoped. The part that had his mother's hands. The part that kept leaving freed slaves in his wake. The part that was going to get him killed. Good. It was about time something did. But even monsters dream, and in his dreams, he still had gentle hands. The Crossroads meeting wasn't a trap. It was worse. It was hope. Princess Catherine stood with only 2 guards, both keeping careful distance from Marcus. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe 20, with eyes that had seen too much for her age. "You came," she said simply. Rosa asked. "Rosa believes in you." "Rosa's wrong." Catherine studied him. 307. "What?" "The number of slaves you freed while pretending to be only a killer. 62 corrupt officials dead, 18 children trafficking rings destroyed." She pulled out a ledger. "I keep track of my kingdom's monsters. You're the most interesting one." "I kill people." "Yes, but you're very particular about which people." Catherine stepped closer. Her guards tensed. "I'm offering you legitimacy, a purpose, a way to be the monster that protects rather than just destroys." "I don't protect. I just hate the right people." "Good enough for government work." Marcus almost laughed. Almost. "What's the real offer?" "Royal executioner. You handle the kingdom's worst, the ones too powerful for normal justice, the ones who buy their way out of consequences." Catherine's voice hardened. "The ones like Lord Garrett who thinks gold makes them untouchable." "And in exchange?" "Pardon for your crimes, a salary, a permanent residence in the castle, and," she hesitated, "training for others like you." "There is no one like me." "No, but there are others who have been broken into weapons, others who need direction before they become mindless killers." Catherine pulled out another document. "The Night Academy now has a special program for the ones too dangerous for normal training. They need a teacher who understands that danger." "I'm not a teacher." "Aldrich taught you." Marcus went still. "Aldrich is dead." "But his methods don't have to be. Neither does Timothy's belief that strength can protect instead of destroy." "Don't." "I'm not done." Catherine's voice cut like steel. "There's a girl, Maya, 12 years old, born with deformed legs, learned to compensate with upper body strength. The Academy wants to expel her. Too different, too dangerous." Sound familiar? It did. It sounded like a boy with small hands that nobody understood. "She accidentally killed another student," Catherine continued. "Didn't know her own strength. Now she thinks she's a monster. She started building her own armor, shutting everyone out. Smart girl. Broken, like you were." Catherine stepped back. "She's scheduled for expulsion tomorrow, unless someone claims her for special training. Someone who understands the weight of accidental death." Marcus was already shaking his head. "I don't save people." "I'm not asking you to save her. I'm asking you to teach her to save herself." Catherine turned to leave. "The Academy, dawn. Whether Maya gets expelled or gets a chance, that's your choice." She left Marcus at the crossroads, staring at his spheres. That night he didn't sleep. He thought about Timothy, about Aldrich, about a girl with deformed legs thinking she was a monster because her strength had betrayed her. At dawn, he stood outside the Night Academy for the first time in 5 years. It looked smaller than he remembered, or maybe he'd just grown too large. 6'4" now, spheres adding another foot to his reach. The guards at the gate went pale when they recognized him. "I'm here for the girl," Marcus said. They let him pass. What else could they do? He found Maya in the courtyard where they held expulsions. She sat alone on a bench, bags packed, legs twisted at angles that must have hurt constantly. But her arms were like young trees, corded with muscle from compensating, from pulling herself through a world not built for her. She looked up when his shadow fell across her, no fear in her eyes, just tired recognition. "You're him, Mega Knight, the monster who graduated." "Yes." "Come to watch them throw out the next monster?" Marcus sat on the bench. It groaned under his weight. "Come to stop them." "Why?" "Because someone stopped them for me once, an old janitor who saw more than a boy with wrong hands." Maya looked at his spheres. "Do they hurt?" "Every day." "Good. Pain means we remember we're not just weapons." She pulled up her sleeve, showing crude armor she'd been building, jagged metal wrapped around her forearms. "I'm making my own, to keep everyone away." "It won't work." "It has to." "No." Marcus stood. "Come with me." "They're expelling me." "They're trying to." Instructor Blackwood appeared, older, grayer, holding expulsion papers. He froze when he saw Marcus.
You can't be here.
I claim training rights.
What?
Royal decree. Marcus pulled out Catherine's document. Special training program for unusual cases. I claim Maya as my first student.
You're a killer, a monster. You can't train children.
Marcus stepped closer. Blackwood scrambled back. I'm a monster who survived, who learned to control, who can teach her what you can't. He looked at Maya. How to live with strength that kills. How to choose when to use it. How to carry weight without letting it crush you. The council won't allow. The princess already has. Blackwood had no response to that. Marcus turned to Maya. It won't be easy. I'm not kind. I'm not patient. But I'll teach you to survive yourself. That's all I can offer. Maya stood, barely reaching his chest even with him sitting. Will you teach me to jump?
What?
Like you do, the falling star. If I could jump, my legs wouldn't matter. Marcus almost smiled. I'll teach you to fly. The training began that day. Marcus had them clear a separate courtyard, too dangerous to train near others. Maya's strength was raw, undirected, explosive. Her legs couldn't support traditional stances, so Marcus invented new ones, ground-based, using her arms as primaries instead of supplements. Power comes from the earth, he told her, remembering Aldrich's words. Your legs are weak, but your connection is strong. Use it. She was a fast learner. Desperate learners always were. Within a week, she could crack stone with her palms. Within a month, she was jumping, not high, but forward, using arm strength to launch herself. Within 3 months, she developed her own technique, the rolling thunder. Where Marcus fell from above, Maya would come from below, launching herself like a cannonball, rotating in the air, striking with centrifugal force. You're smiling, she said one day after a particularly good landing. Marcus touched his face, surprised. He was. Don't get used to it. But he smiled more around her. She was irreverent in ways he'd forgotten were possible. She named his spheres, lefty and righty. She painted a face on a training dummy and called it Lord Stuffy Pants. She sang badly while training, claiming it helped her rhythm. She reminded him what it was like to be young and not completely broken. Rosa visited monthly, checking on them both. You're good with her, she said one evening. I'm teaching her to be a weapon. You're teaching her to be a weapon who chooses. There's a difference. Maya had fallen asleep after training, curled on a bench like a cat. Marcus watched her breathe, peaceful, trusting. She's going to face what I faced, he said quietly. The fear, the isolation, the moment she kills somebody accidentally again. Maybe, or maybe she'll have what you didn't. What's that? Someone who understands. Someone who's been there. Someone who won't let her seal spheres to her hands because she knows the cost. Marcus looked at his spheres. 5 years sealed on now. Sometimes he forgot what his hands looked like underneath. She wants armor, he said. Keeps building it. Let her, but teach her it doesn't have to be permanent. That armor can come off. Mine can't. No, but hers can. That's the point. One day, 6 months into training, real trouble came. A group of senior students, led by Harold's younger brother, Eric, cornered Maya in the dining hall. Monster girl with a monster teacher, Eric sneered. Freaks training freaks. Maya didn't respond, just trying to leave. They blocked her. What's wrong? Legs don't work? Need your precious Mega Knight to carry you? Maya's fists clenched. Marcus had taught her control, but she was still 13. Still wounded. At least I don't need 5 friends to feel brave, she said. Eric shoved her. Maya fell, her legs unable to catch her. The dining hall went silent. Marcus appeared in the doorway. He didn't speak, didn't need to. His presence filled the room like smoke. Eric started. I know what you were doing. Marcus's voice was quiet. Quiet was worse than shouting. Maya, get up. She struggled to her feet. Show them rolling thunder. Here, but now. Maya coiled using her arms to launch. She rotated in the air, barely missing Eric's head, and landed perfectly despite her legs. The students stared. She could have killed you, Marcus told Eric. She chose not to. That's the difference between her and me. He stepped closer. I don't always choose mercy. Eric and his friends fled. Later, Maya asked, "Would you have hurt them?" "No, but they needed to think I would." "To protect me?" "To protect them. You're stronger than you know. One day, someone will push too hard and you'll push back. When that happens, it's better if they're afraid enough to stay away." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Is that why everyone stays away from you? They're afraid?" "Yes." "But I'm not afraid of you." "No?" "No, you're sad, not scary. Your spheres are scary, but you're just sad." Marcus didn't know how to respond to that. Their year together passed quickly. Maya grew stronger, more confident. She still built armor, but stopped wearing it constantly. She made friends, carefully, slowly, but she made them. The day before her 14th birthday, she found Marcus in their training yard. "I want to show you something." She'd built new armor, not crude metal like before, but elegant, articulated pieces that supported her legs while leaving her arms free. It was beautiful. "This is incredible," Marcus said, genuinely impressed. Rosa helped with the design, said you'd understand the importance of armor that helps instead of hides. "Maya, I know your spheres don't come off, Rosa told me, but mine does, see?" She removed a piece, then replaced it. Armor by choice, not by prison. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. Not break, but thaw. "You're gonna be better than me," he said. "Different than you," Maya corrected. "But you taught me that different doesn't mean monster." The next week, a letter arrived from the princess, not about Maya, about him. "There's someone you need to meet," it read. "Someone who claims to have something you lost." Marcus crumpled the letter, then smoothed it out and read it again. Something he lost. He'd lost everything. His hands, his humanity, Timothy, Rosa's love. What could anyone have that mattered now? But he went, because Maya was right. He was more than scary. And sad people still hope, even when they shouldn't. They had taken the last light in his darkness, and now nothing held him back. The anniversary celebration was everything Marcus hated. 1,000 victories. The kingdom had declared it a holiday, Day of the Falling Star, they called it, celebrating their tamed monster. 5 years as royal executioner. 5 years of sanctioned killing. 5 years of teaching broken children to be better than him. Marcus stood on the palace balcony, watching crowds gather below. They sold toy spheres in the market now. Children played Mega Knight and Maya, taking turns being hero and student. They turned his trauma into merchandise. "You're brooding again," Maya said, rolling up beside him. 17 now, she moved on wheeled armor she'd designed herself. Brilliant engineering that gave her speed and stability her legs couldn't. "I'm remembering." "Which ghost today?" "All of them." Maya studied the crowd. "They love you now." "They love the story, not the reality." "Maybe, but the story helps." She gestured at a group of disabled children playing below. One with withered arms wearing cardboard spheres. "That boy thinks he can be strong because you exist. That's not nothing." "It's not enough." "It never is for people like us." Maya touched his sphere gently, one of the few who dared. "But we keep going anyway." A commotion at the palace gates drew their attention. The guards were arguing with someone. Marcus couldn't see who, but something about the stance was familiar. "I'll check," Maya said, wheeling away before Marcus could stop her. She returned minutes later, face pale. "There's someone demanding to fight you. Says he has something you lost." "Who?" "Won't give his name. Old man, maybe 60. But Marcus," she hesitated. "He has a box with a royal seal from 20 years ago." Marcus's spheres trembled. 20 years ago, he'd been 7, still had hands, still had his mother. He descended the courtyard. The Challenger waited in the center, hood drawn despite the warm day. When Marcus approached, he pushed it back. Marcus stopped breathing. The face was older, weathered by decades, but the eyes, soft, brown, gentle, even now were unmistakable. "Hello, Marcus," Timothy said. The world tilted. Marcus's knees buckled. The spheres hit the ground with a clang that echoed through the sudden silence. "You were dead. I killed you." "You almost killed me," Timothy's voice was raspier than Marcus remembered. Crushed ribs, punctured lung, internal bleeding. The healers said I had minutes. I saw you die. You saw me stop breathing, but there was an old healer, one who knew forbidden magic. Death magic, ironically. She was there for another patient, heard the commotion. She brought me back. Timothy touched his chest. Barely and broken. I couldn't walk for 3 years. Couldn't hold a sword for 5. My family told everyone I died. Easier than explaining a partial resurrection. Marcus was shaking. 20 years. 20 years I've carried your death. I know. I'm sorry. Timothy stepped closer. I tried to find you when I could walk again, but you've already become this. Already sealed those horrible things to your hands. By the time I could travel, you were the arena's monster. What could I say? Hey, I'm alive. Please stop destroying yourself. Yes. The word tore from Marcus's throat. Yes, that's exactly what you should have said. Would you have believed me? Marcus couldn't answer. At 14, consumed by guilt, he'd have thought it a cruel joke or delusion. I watched, Timothy continued, every fight, every kill, watching my friend disappear into metal and legend. I kept waiting for the right moment, but you just kept falling further. Why now? Timothy pulled out the box. Because of her. Maya? Rosa. Marcus went still. She found me 3 months ago. Don't ask how. That woman has resources. She told me about the teaching, about Maya and the others, and about how you save people while pretending you don't. Timothy's eyes were wet. She said you were almost ready to remember you're not just a weapon. Rosa's wrong. Rosa's pregnant. The spears cracked the courtyard stones. Timothy continued quickly. She didn't want me to tell you, but you deserve to know. She's in the mountain town she always talked about. Has a small medical practice. The father's a blacksmith. Kind man, gentle hands. Everything you think you can't be. Marcus turned away. Good. The child deserves better. She named him Marcus. The words hit like physical blows. Little Marcus, 3 months old, has his mother's eyes and, according to Rosa's, his namesake's stubbornness. Timothy opened the box. She sent this. Inside was a journal. Not Timothy's, a new one. The first page had Rosa's handwriting. For Marcus, who thinks his story ended with spheres. But stories don't end, they just change chapters. R. The rest of the pages showed drawings, a baby, a mountain cottage, a forge where someone with spheres for hands could work. Detailed blueprints for attachments, not replacements for hands, but additions to spheres, ways to hold things, to create instead of destroy. She still loves you, Timothy said quietly, even after everything. She loves who I was. No, she loves who you are. The man who teaches broken children, who kills slavers for free, who carries impossible weight so others don't have to. Timothy closed the box. But she knows you won't come while you're still punishing yourself for my death. You're alive. There's nothing to punish myself for. Isn't there? Timothy gestured at the spheres. You turned yourself into this because you thought you killed me. Now you know you didn't. So what's your excuse now? Marcus had no answer. Timothy pulled out something else, leather-wrapped, familiar. Marcus's breath caught. It was his mother's journal, the one he thought he'd lost at the academy 5 years ago. Aldrich saved it, Timothy explained. Gave it to my family before he died. Asked them to give it to you when you were ready. He unwrapped it carefully. Your mother wrote about you, about her precious son with gentle hands who would do great things. I've done terrible things. You've done necessary things. There's a difference. Timothy opened the journal to a marked page. Read this. Marcus's mother's handwriting, faded but clear. My darling Marcus, your hands are small like mine were. People will mock them, fear them, try to change them. Don't let them. Strength isn't in the size of your fist, but in what you choose to do with them. You can build or destroy, heal or hurt, create or obliterate. The choice is always yours, even when it feels like there's no choice at all. I love you, my gentle boy. Stay gentle, even if you have to be strong. Mother. Marcus was crying. He couldn't remember the last time he'd cried, but tears ran down his face, dripping onto spheres that had been dry for years. She wouldn't recognize me. he whispered. She'd recognize her son doing impossible things to protect others, Timothy said, just not the way she expected. Maya rolled up, having kept the crowd back. Marcus? The princess is asking if the exhibition fight is happening. Exhibition? Marcus looked at Timothy. I challenged you, officially, the challenger who has something you lost, Timothy smiled sadly. I have your humanity, Marcus. Come take it back. They entered the arena, not the Grand Colosseum, but the small training ground where Marcus taught his broken students. Word spread instantly. Mega Knight versus a mystery challenger. The crowd gathered. The princess watched from her balcony. Maya and Marcus's other students, 15 now, all dangerous, all learning control, formed the inner circle. Timothy removed his cloak. Underneath, he wore simple leather armor. He carried 2 swords, basic steel, nothing special. I can't fight you, Marcus said. You can. You've been fighting me for 20 years, my ghost, my memory. Fight the real me. See what happens. Timothy attacked. He was slow. The injuries had left him diminished, but his form was perfect. Each movement the result of 2 decades of studying Marcus's fights, learning his patterns. Marcus defended, spheres moving as gently as possible, but Timothy pressed, forcing him back. Fight me, Timothy shouted. Stop holding back. I'll kill you. You already did. I got better, Timothy laughed. Actually laughed while attacking. Fight me, you overdramatic fool. Marcus swung, a real swing. Timothy rolled under it, came up inside Marcus's guard, and did something impossible. He hugged him. Arms wrapped around Marcus's chest, Timothy held on despite the spheres, despite the armor, despite 20 years of separation. I forgive you, Timothy whispered. I forgave you the moment it happened. It was an accident, a stupid, terrible accident, but I forgive you. I've always forgiven you. Marcus's legs gave out. He crashed to his knees, Timothy still holding on. The spheres hit the ground and Marcus screamed. Not battle rage, but 20 years of grief pouring out at once. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Tim. I know. It's okay. It's all okay. The crowd was silent. They'd expected a battle. Instead, they saw their monster break, saw him become human. Maya approached slowly. Marcus? This is Timothy. Marcus managed through tears. He's alive. He's been alive. Maya's eyes widened. She heard the stories, knew the name that haunted her teacher. You're the friend he writes about every night. He still writes? Timothy asked. Every night, apologizing to you, promising to be better. Maya pulled out a journal. She'd been keeping it safe. Thousands of apologies to a ghost who wasn't dead. Timothy helped Marcus stand. No more apologies. No more guilt. It's done. The spheres. Stay on if they have to, but Rosa sent these too. Timothy pulled out a bag. The attachments Rosa had designed. She'd been working with the kingdom's best engineers. They clip on, let you hold things, not hands, but function. Marcus picked up one attachment with a sphere. It was beautiful, delicate gears and springs that would let him grip without destroying. Why? Marcus asked. Why would she do this? Because she wants you to hold your namesake, at least once. Marcus looked at Timothy, at Maya, and his students watching their teacher transform. I can't. The kingdom needs Mega Knight to be a legend, the princess called from her balcony. But Marcus can retire. He's given enough. My students can visit, Maya said firmly. Will visit, often. Mountain Town's only 3 days away. But no more buts, Timothy said. You've been a weapon long enough. Time to remember you're a person. Marcus stood in the arena, surrounded by people who'd forgiven him for things he never forgave himself for. The weight of 20 years pressed down. Then slowly, he attached Rosa's modifications to his spheres. They clicked into place perfectly. When he flexed, mechanical fingers responded. Not his hands, those were gone forever, but something that could hold, could touch, could create. I don't remember how to be human, he admitted. Then learn, Maya said. You taught us to be more than our broken parts. Time to take your own lesson. The crowd was murmuring now, some disappointed at no fight, others confused by their monster crying. But a few, the ones who'd lost everything, who'd become weapons themselves, they understood. Marcus looked at the spheres with their new attachments, then at Timothy, alive and forgiving, at Maya, proof that broken children could choose to be more, at the princess offering freedom, at the mountain town Rosa had marked on every map where a baby named Marcus waited. He thought of his mother's words, "The choice is always yours." For 20 years he'd chosen guilt, chosen punishment, chosen to be the monster they expected. Time to choose something else. "One last jump," Marcus said. Everyone stepped back, expecting the falling star. But Marcus didn't jump to destroy. He jumped straight up, 50 feet, 60, 70, higher than ever before. At the peak, the entire kingdom spread below him. He could see the arena where he'd killed hundreds, the academy where he'd lost himself, the roads he'd walked as a monster. And in the distance, mountains, a cottage, a future. He came down gently, a technique he'd never tried, dispersing the impact through a rolled landing instead of a devastating crater. The ground barely cracked. "I'm done," he announced to the crowd. "Mega Knight is retired." Some cheered, some booed. Marcus didn't care. He had a godson to meet. 5 years later, the mountain forge rang with patient hammering. Marcus worked the metal carefully, mechanical attachments letting him grip the hammer without destroying it. He was making horseshoes today, simple work that paid well. Uncle Marcus, little Marcus, 5 now, Rosa's eyes and his father's gentle nature, ran into the forge despite repeated warnings about hot metal. "Careful, little one. Mama says dinner, and Maya's here." Marcus set down his hammer. Outside, snow was falling on the mountain town. Through the window, he could see Rosa in their cottage, stirring something that smelled of home. Her husband, James, was setting the table, a good man who never minded that his wife loved a legend. Maya rolled through the door, her wheeled armor upgraded again. She was the academy's lead instructor now, teaching the broken ones. She visited monthly, updating Marcus on students, bringing news of the world. "Timothy sends his regards," she said. "He's still traveling, finding others like us." "Like us?" "The ones who got lost in their armor. He helps them find their way out," Maya smiled. "He calls it the Marcus Protocol." Marcus almost laughed. "That's terrible." "That's Timothy." At dinner, surrounded by chosen family, Marcus watched little Marcus eat with chubby, perfect hands. The boy that would never know the weight of spheres, would never have to choose between monster and man. "Story," the child demanded after dinner. "The one about the princess hands." Rosa met Marcus's eyes. They'd agreed, no hiding the truth, but told right. "Once upon a time," Marcus began, mechanical fingers clicking as he gestured. "There was a boy with small, gentle hands. His mother loved him because they were just like hers." "Like mine?" Marcus held up his tiny hands. "Just like yours, but others were afraid of gentle hands. They thought strength meant big fists and hard hits." The child listened, wide-eyed, as Marcus told the story, not of Mega Knight the monster, not of the arena's champion, but of a boy who got lost in an armor he couldn't remove, who found his way back through friends who wouldn't let him stay lost. "Did he ever get his real hands back?" little Marcus asked. Marcus looked at his spheres with their attachments. He could hold things now, could write, could even carefully hug. But they weren't hands. No. But he learned that hands aren't what make you human. What does? Choices. Choosing to be gentle when you can be cruel. Choosing to protect when you could destroy. Choosing to forgive others and yourself. Little Marcus considered this seriously. Then he stood, walked to Marcus, and carefully hugged the sphere on his side. "I love you, Uncle Marcus, weird hands and all." Marcus's eyes burned. "I love you too, little one." Later, after the child was asleep, Marcus stood outside watching stars. Rosa joined him, leaning against his side. "Any regrets?" she asked. "Every day, but less than yesterday, and tomorrow, hopefully less than today." That's all anyone can ask. Maya rolled out, heading to the guest cottage. "Same time next month?" "Always." She left them alone. Rosa's husband was inside, reading, giving them space for these moments. "I never thanked you," Marcus said, "for finding Timothy, for the designs, for not giving up. You saved my life a dozen times in those arenas. I was just doing my job." "No, you were choosing to be more than your trauma." Even then, she kissed his sphere. "That's what I fell in love with, not the gentle boy you were or the weapon you became. The man in between, always choosing." That night, Marcus wrote in a new journal, his own, not Timothy's. Today, little Marcus asked if I got my hands back. I said no, but that's not entirely true. I'll never have the hands I was born with. My mother's hands, gentle and small. Those are gone forever, along with the boy who had them. But I have these mechanical marvels Rosa designed. I have Maya's trust to help shape her students. I have Timothy's forgiveness and friendship. I have a nephew who loves me, weird hands and all. I have choices. For someone who once thought he had no choice but to be a monster, that's everything. The arena crowds called me Mega Knight. The kingdom calls me Villain King. I called myself Monster. But here, in this mountain town, I'm just Marcus, the blacksmith with strange hands, Rosa's complicated love, little Marcus's uncle, Maya's teacher. Just Marcus. It's enough. It's more than enough. It's everything I never dared hope for. He closed the journal and prepared for bed. Tomorrow there would be horseshoes to make, a nephew to watch, a life to live. The spheres would never come off, but the weight, the terrible crushing weight of guilt and self-hatred, that was finally lifting. One choice at a time, one day at a time, one gentle moment in hands that were never meant to be gentle again, but were anyway, because the choice was always his, even when it felt like there was no choice at all.